Satini insists he was not involved in the murder. However, his version was challenged by the investigating officer. He faces Schedule 6 offences, including 3 counts of attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder and murder, meaning he has to prove to the court exceptional circumstances that show it's in the best interest of justice to be admitted to bail. Dimakatso Leshoro, Eyewitness News.
The magistrate in the case against a Soweto church leader accused of raping a 12-year-old child says there is still no final decision on whether the matter will be tried in the High Court or Regional Court. The 58-year-old appeared in the Roodepoort Magistrates Court yesterday, where the case was postponed to July. He's facing charges including rape and kidnapping after he allegedly lured the young girl to his home in Dobsonville and sexually assaulted her. He is currently in custody after abandoning bail. Magistrate Thelma Simpson says the state is currently waiting for crucial evidence or forensic evidence, including DNA results, toxicology reports, and the outstanding video footage.
But for now, they have the docket and will obviously control the process of further investigations. You've heard also that the evidence and everything that will later be relevant in this case were submitted for forensic analysis, and that we specifically await the DNA results.
Cooperative Governance Minister Velenkosini Hlabisa is promising greater stability in Municipal Council following the November polls, with coalition governments being subjected to binding legal agreements. However, the legislation to give effect to this is still a long way off from making it through the parliamentary process. Tabling the budgets of his department in the National Assembly yesterday, Hlabisa said repatriations, or rather preparations for this year's local government elections, are going well. Lindsay Dentlinker has more.
With a review on the white paper on local government now complete, Minister Velenkosini Hlabisa says the next step is to advance legislative reforms to give effect to this policy. A raft of bills is in the pipeline aimed at improving the way municipal councils function and to improve the services they deliver.
These reforms are about one thing: stabilizing municipalities so that service delivery becomes reliable, predictable, and consistent.
However, the so-called coalitions bill is still a work in progress, as the department seeks to reach a compromise with the DA over a similar bill it tabled last year that preempted an executive bill. Meanwhile, Hlabisa says other measures are already in place in preparation for the municipal elections, including an interministerial committee, the finalisation of councillor numbers, and the delimitation of 4,488 wards nationally. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
And the EFF says it has no choice but to challenge the fuel levy increase announced by Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana to protect the poor and the most vulnerable. The party was back in the Western Cape High Court to fight the increase, which will see the levy going up by 9 cents per litre for petrol and 8 cents for diesel. The Red Berets argue that the increase is a revenue-generating tax, and the minister cannot announce the move without going through Parliament. EFF MP Nazir Paulson adds that consumer inflation rising to 4% also supports their argument on how the levy will impact South Africans.
We are the representatives of the people that would be affected by a fuel levy increase. It would have a far-reaching implications: increase in travelling costs, increase in commodities, foodstuff, household goods. It will just increase the cost of living for all South Africans, especially the poor and working class.
Gold is trading at $4,543.79 an ounce. The rand is at 16.47 to the dollar, 22.13 to the pound, 19.16 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $105.74 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got delays on the R24 West. This is between Edenville Road and the N12 merge. There's also queuing traffic on the N3 North in the Alexander area. That's due to an accident that happened after Vincent Magwenya Road. Delays coming out of Modderfontein Road.
A cloudy day in store for Gauteng. The temperatures will peak at highs between 19 and 20 degrees. The top story in EW and the Sawa. The man accused of killing a witness from the Langa Commission will continue in the Brakpan Magistrates Court with his bail application today.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
Visit primemediaplus.com to enter 702 Jozi My Jozi Walk the Talk. Hosted by the City of Johannesburg. Walk with the people, for the people, for our Jozi.
For Joburg, by Joburg, in Joburg.
Bamise bonke.
702.
Live
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7.
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
It's just gone 7 minutes past 9. Good morning. Welcome to the Clement Manyathela Show. My name is Khomotso Modise. I'm in for Clement this morning. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to Bongani for the breakfast show. Coming up on the show this morning, members of parliament are calling for more funding for the SANDF. The minister says there is a mismatch between the Defence Force's constitutional mandate and resources allocated to it. We're going to be speaking to an analyst about this, as well as the Action SA's chief whip, who's been very vocal about what's going on there. And then also, as part of our dialogue today, we talk and take a look at the former presidents Thabo Mbeki and Jacob Zuma's Constitutional Court bid. That's for the recusal of TRC Commission Chair Justice Sisi Khampepe. I know many of us haven't been following that particular commission that's been happening in Newtown at the Saibono Center. It is an important one, and this battle is going all the way to the Apex Court. We'll be speaking to Mbigazeli Benjamin on that. And then we're hanging out with Soweto-born entrepreneur Tebogo Kass. He's the founder of the Institute of Chartered Entrepreneurs. He's also a political analyst and a social activist. And of course, we're going to be starting with the open line in just a bit. Thank you so much for tuning in. On the team today is Abel. He's the technical producer. Zintle and Snazo are taking your calls. Amo Ramela's on the traffic, and Sfiso Zulu has your news. Get in touch with us. The number to dial is 011-883-0702. Send me a WhatsApp on 072-702-1702, or get in touch with me on X. My handle is at @mozo_Modise.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
The open line is brought to you by Truecaller. Trust the real ones on 702. Good morning. How is your Thursday morning? It's that, I always say Thursday is so tricky because everyone wants it to be Friday. It's a pre-Friday, Amper Friday, but it's still a full work day. I hope that you are enjoying yourself and that you're having a fantastic week. There's lots that's been happening on the news over the last couple of days, but I think the story of Rosemary Ndlovu that broke yesterday, there was an entire trial happening in the Kempton Park Magistrates Court, and Rosemary Ndlovu has been sentenced has been convicted once again. It's just... So this time, Rosemary has been convicted for playing a part in the attempted assassination of another person. Now, you may remember Rosemary Ndlovu. There's been a lot of coverage about her, but also there are a number of documentaries about what she had done and what she's been convicted of. She's already serving 6 life sentences, and this was for the murder of a number of her family members for insurance policy money, which she cashed out. And at that time, of course, it took a while for police to get to the bottom of what she was doing, because it was her family members that she was dying, and people didn't feel like there was anything untoward, right? But now she's been convicted in another matter. It's a failed murder plot, thank God, and the man did not die, but she and her friend, who's also a former police officer, Nomsa Mudau, were convicted on charges of incitement to commit murder. That was yesterday in the Kempton Park Magistrates Court. The pair had been on trial for over 4 years. It's that type of case that you even forget has been going on. I remember covering it once in the Kempton Park Magistrates Court. Well, it's finally over. It relates to a 2018 plot to kill Mudau's husband, Justice Mudau, and the court heard that Ndlovu contacted hitmen to assist Mudau in carrying out the murder. And that just had me thinking when I saw that story. I mean, it's absolutely insane what's been happening there. But the fact that Rosemary Ndlovu had been doing this And we've been seeing so much coverage about these insurance crimes. I know that there's another one that was happening in Limpopo a few weeks ago. And about 2-3 months ago, there's another one happening in the Northwest. I think the lady's name is Sekgomotso Setshwantsho. That's her name. She is being tried for murdering her son, also for insurance money. Has this had you a little concerned and worried and guarded when family members approach you wanting your personal information? I know already in many families, when someone dies, you're told keep the death certificate very close. You don't share it to everyone or with everyone. You don't give it to anyone. But has this caused you to be a little more guarded? And I ask this question because having spoken to colleagues about this, some have told me that they have had instances in their families where they lost a relative and a random family member asks for the death certificate and everyone's asking, why? Why would you possibly need the death certificate? And I think that this has just caused us to be a little more guarded around things like this, around what exactly do you need this document for? We know that many people will, sign you up for policies, right? And they will, use your name or sign you and they'll continue to contribute towards the life insurance policy or a funeral cover, a funeral policy. But quite frankly, I think that the story has me a little worried now about what exactly could be happening. And whenever family members now might come and approach me and ask me for, my, what could it be, my ID maybe, or information that might be needed to sign me up for insurance policy, I think I might be a little concerned now that we're seeing so many of these stories. I think another thing that's interesting about this Rosemary Ndlovu story is the fact that it's not that this hadn't been happening. It's that there's more coverage around it now. And we're seeing more and more of these stories being reported. I think the police officer who's been cracking these cases definitely needs his flowers. His name is Keshi Mabunda. I definitely think that he needs his flowers because he's been doing an excellent job at identifying these cases. He cracked Rosemary Ndlovu. He's currently working on the Sekgomotso Setshwantsho matter, and there's a couple of others that he's working on, and he's doing so amazing. He's an investigator who is so skilled in this space. And I think that he's also showing us that this is happening a lot more than we think it is. People murdering their family members or plotting to kill their family members. But something else about the Rosemary Ndlovu case in particular that had caught my attention is that now she'd become the plug for hitmen. Because in this case, she was helping her friend. So her friend wanted to murder her spouse, and she was assisting her friend to find hitmen to carry out the crime. And for some reason, those hitmen told the husband what was going on. And that's the only reason why that man did not die. If the hitmen had actually taken, I think it was the 80,000 rand, that man wouldn't have come out alive. Justice Mudau may not have come out alive. It's a horrible, horrible story. And the fact that it's happening so much in our country. I think the Setshwantsho one, in fact, for me, I found even more outrageous because she's alleged to have murdered her son. And this is her son who is a university student. I think what happened in that case, she poisoned the son's burger, allegedly, of course, because she's still being tried. She allegedly poisoned the son's burger, and then she cashed in on insurance policy money. And that, for me, is just so outrageous. So are you a little more cautious now when it comes to a family member who asks you for information, a family member who asks you, funny questions, suspicious questions? Has that caused you to be a little more guarded? Titi, you're in Pretoria. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Morning. How are you?
I'm very well. Would you go ahead?
Sharp. Rena batho ba bantsho ne. We come from impoverished backgrounds. So the moment like the moment we are economically active, it is then that we'd like to also play a role in the funeral of those that we know their kids or their immediate families will not be able to cover them in the unfortunate situation that they pass on. But now we also understand the sensitivity, So what do we do? You see, or do we go to the immediate family and say, here's a copy or proof of that I covered your mother or your wife or your husband. Please give your death certificate. But also there are also those who are naughty. Hey. For 10,000 or for 15,000, Maromato Fara 5, you know what I mean?
That's exactly what happens. That happens a lot.
Yeah, so what do we do? Or can the insurance companies maybe play a role in accepting any other form of notification to show that there was indeed a funeral? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, or could we say, could we maybe say to them, contact the funeral parlor? Or can a funeral parlor provide some kind of letter, just confirmation, not the death certificate, right? But also, is that a sensitive document? So what do you do? And I think this happens mostly amongst us, Batowans, people of color, because we want to help, right? But at the same time, it's sensitive, and there's all of these people are using it as
a money-making scheme. Yes.
Money-making scheme where you cover motor for 10, who is at 2, who try 8. But also, are you not entitled to it?
Yeah,
maybe not. You know what I mean? You are helping. You know, there are those who don't even all. So what do we do? You know what I mean?
It's interesting that you say that, Titi, because some another view was that, I mean, this is your money. You're the one that's been contributing. I suppose there's then the moral question that how you were banking on someone's death to cash in. And of course, that's different from actually murdering the person. With Rosemary and Lovu, it's very clear it was murdering the person.
But also, do you? I understand the thing of morality, but is it also moral to take the whole money? Or if you cover motor for 20, I can keep 5 and take 15. But 5, I can say it's for kitele petrol so that I can run around, help out, go buy groceries, go do this. You know what I mean? It's a very sensitive thing, honestly, especially amongst us black people.
But what I want to know,
what
I want to know from you, Titi, is has this, these instances and these cases that we're learning about now, have they caused you to be a little more guarded, particularly around your family members that come to you and maybe will ask, hey, Kikoba, ID copy how, or can I have something from you? Do you worry about this now? Because I've been thinking about this.
With me, the most immediate person that I've lost in my life is my mother, right? And because I'm not trying to boast or anything, but I can afford, so I was okay. But if someone had to come and ask for a copy of the death certificate, right, I'll probably give them a copy. And if they're involved in any naughtiness, then I guess not for me. What goes around comes around. I believe in karma. You know, I don't know if the person brought. I didn't ask my sister if they bought juice or bought cold drinks. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if they cash. It's them. Let it make them survive. I buy PDs at Hill, but it's 10,000. 10,000 that comes in the wrong way. No, it's not going to do anything for you.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Yeah. All right, Titi in Pretoria, thank you so much for your call. It's a view that many people hold that it's fine, let them eat that money. It won't take them very far, it won't do much for them. But it's definitely a view that some have that this is morally warped. There's a problem here morally that you would even do something like that. But I mean, what Rosemary was doing was even a step further, because she was not only signing the people up, not just for funeral cover. So this is okay, we're going to wait for the funeral, and then if you pass away, then I'll get the money. No, what she was doing was she was murdering the people and then cashing in on their insurance policy, so the life cover. And that for me, I mean, and now she was becoming the one that helps people find hitmen and influencing others. And of course, I don't want to take away the responsibility from Nomsa as well, who clearly wanted to murder her own husband. But Rosemary was helping people now plan and do this, and helping people find a hitman as well. I mean, how insane is that? Someone here saying in insurance underwriting terms, there's something called an insurable interest. If that doesn't exist, you can't insure a person just as means to make money, especially for yourself. Insurances have specific products that you buy if you want to make money. And that's from Lucky Nkwashu. Thank you for that comment, Lucky. I've always wondered how it works, but I've always thought that there's some sort of corruption and shiga, as some people say, that happens in that space. That someone is being bribed to do certain things. I'm sure there are systems in place to prevent this, because this has been happening for so long. But I think that there might be some people who are being bribed for this. Let's take a voice note.
Morning, Khobotso. Vic here in Pretoria. I think when it comes to this insurance money, we should just put a rule that a person who is being covered must sign the document to show that they consent to the person who's covering them. Because if the person does not consent, it means now he might be covered and not know about it, and he might be mad at, or she might be mad at for it. So the best way to do it is for the person who's covered to sign the document for consent so that they can be covered.
Good morning, Memdise. You know, this issue here, the funeral cover and sort. So people will, under the guise of saying, hey, I need to prove I need a day off because when I lay a funeral, someone passed away, whatever. So then people are then being asked to who copy the death certificate because it's not proof no, you know what, I have to attend this funeral. But then in the meantime, they're using that as a guise because then they know that they're going to, they don't even divulge to whomever's family that has passed on, the the relative and whatever. They just go and cash in on the money and that's that. It's crazy. It's crazy out there. No, now I always say to people, give me your boss's whatever email and I'll send it to him. That's all.
That's actually very smart. That's so sneaky, eh? It's sneaky that people would do something like that. That they know exactly what they want to do with the death certificate and they take it under the guise that they're going to use it at work. That's absolutely insane. Yeah, of course, we're speaking about Rosemary Ndlovu and the latest conviction. She's now being convicted for being part of a plot to murder. It's incitement to commit murder. This is going to be, and she's going to be sentenced for this in addition to her 6 life sentences. When we come back, we're going to be speaking to Phoebe Potgieter Qubule, and we're going to be talking to her around the ANC's move to have volunteers and nominations for mayoral candidates. More on that after this.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
Some of the WhatsApp messages. Africa, you are being disingenuous. How many times do people call in complaining about home affairs as South Africans? Cape Talk even had an open air broadcast highlighting the issues at home affairs, but you don't believe, in inverted commas, that home affairs makes them illegal. People wait up to 10 years for paperwork, and these are people who are well resourced and working with lawyers.
The question is, home affairs isn't issuing the permits and home affairs is inefficient. What are their legal rights?
That's a question, Paul. Thank you very much.
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
It was actually a flawless process.
It definitely pays to switch.
I wish we had done it sooner.
Outsurance business insurance clients know that it pays to switch. And did you know, when you claim, your excess is a fixed amount, not a percentage of the claim. For beauty salons, convenience stores, and all other businesses. Get a quote today and see why it pays to switch to Outsurance Business Insurance. Visit outsurance.co.za or call 0800 60,000 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Evolution doesn't wait. Introducing the Chang'an Uni S. Unexpected, unmistakable, uncompromising. Engineered to a higher standard, unlike anything in its class. Unsurprising, really. From China's oldest automaker, trusted by 30 million drivers worldwide. And at $4,999 per month, it's an unbeatable offer too. Chang'an Finance, T's and C's apply. Visit chang'anmotors.co.za for more. The Chang'an Uni S.
Chang'an, driven to evolve.
Ready to make a real impact in just 90 minutes? On the 28th of May, Spur Steak Ranches and Rise Against Hunger are joining forces for World Hunger Day to pack thousands of meals for young children across South Africa. And we need you. Grab a friend, grab a shift, 10 a.m., 12 p.m. or 2 p.m. and come help us pack nutritious meals at the Spur head office in Century City. Sign up now via the Spur Facebook page or visit the Rise Against Hunger website. Be a hunger hero. Volunteer today.
You hear that? That's the sound of business execution finally visible. No more chasing people and reports, no more disconnected systems, no more guessing if our business is performing or not. iStratGo connects strategy, people, performance, and day-to-day work into one clear software platform, so leaders can see what's working, what's not, and where to focus. Because when execution is visible, everything runs better. Book a demo on iStratGo.com. ISTRATGO.com.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
Food price inflation's been relatively moderate lately. Some of it's come down. I think cereals are still deflationary. Won't stay like that for long with fuel prices like this.
We've got the, food prices which are still looking relatively benign, but there is going to be a couple of headwinds coming for food inflation in the coming quarters. So, the rise in fuel prices, so logistics costs. The second is going to be a rise in fertilizer.
Sanisha Pakarasamy, Chief Economist at Momentum Investments.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Curtis is brought to you by Absa Business Banking, featuring the AgriTrends 2026 Autumn Edition. In agriculture, smart moves need smart insights. Get the latest AgriTrends report at absaagritrends.co.za. Absa is a registered FSP.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
Welcome back. It's the open line. So the ANC has asked South Africans, including non-members, to nominate candidates or volunteer for mayoral posts. The party says the nominations close tomorrow, and those who apply would still have to compete with people whose names have been submitted by regional executive committees. So I want to hear more about that and how the process has been. And on the line for that, we've got Phoebe Potgieter-Qubule, ANC Head of Policy and Research and NEC member. Phoebe, good morning. Thank you so much for your time.
Good morning.
So I'm very interested in what the response has been like on this. I mean, when the ANC made this call, I found it to be very interesting that this was happening and that you were also calling for non-members also, or allowing non-members to be nominated. What has the response been like?
Well, let me start by saying that there are about 5-6 different streams. The public nomination is one of them. So there are nominations by ANC structures, REC species. There's nominations by the Alliance. There are nominations by different sectors like Contralesa and cultural groups, etc. And then, of course, by the leagues of the ANC. So the response has been very enthusiastic. We've received many queries and have sent out the link where people can nominate both for our structures and allied structures as well as the public. We should know by next week the overall response from all of the different, because the deadline, as I say, is tomorrow. And we will then give an update to structures. By the way, the call for public nominations, it also means that an individual ANC member can also nominate or self-nominate to be considered as a mayoral candidate.
Yeah. Phoebe, I'm interested in how then it would work. So if I am nominated and I'm not a member of the ANC, I'm nominated, but I would still have to compete with people whose names were submitted by regional executive committees. I mean, surely those people would come out on top because I don't necessarily have the support of the ANC. How would that work?
Well, it's not an elective process, so candidates will compete on merit. The expectation is that if you're a non-member, that you will be asked to join the ANC and also sign an undertaking, which all candidates will have to sign, that they will abide by the regulations and rules and constitutions of the ANC. But it's not an elective process where it depends on the number of votes that you get or nominated by so many branches, etc. It is a process where there are minimum criteria. For example, you need to have a tertiary degree. You have to have at least 10-year management experience because we really want to get the best candidates that will lead our cities and towns. If one look at the 41 strategic towns that we've nominated, I mean, they control budgets collectively of over R1 trillion. And your mayors play a critical role in driving the mayoral committees, overseeing the administration, and making sure that the vision for the city or town remains on track.
All right, let's leave it there. That's Phoebe Potgieter-Qubule, ANC Head of Policy and Research. I'm wondering, if you had to nominate someone, who would you nominate to go and run? And those people would have to join the ANC and sign a declaration, as she says. But who would you nominate? And would you volunteer as well? We'll have more of that conversation after the headlines. It's just after 9:30. Sviso Zulu standing by. Good morning.
Thanks, Khomotso. Good morning. The South African Human Rights Commission is today concluding its public hearings into Gauteng's worsening water crisis. The Commission is investigating whether repeated and prolonged water outages and infrastructure failures and inconsistent access to clean water constitute a systemic violation of basic human rights. Cooperative Governance Minister Velenkosini Hlabisa is promising greater stability in municipal councils following the November polls, with coalition governments being subjected to binding legal agreements. However, the legislation to give effect to this is still a long way off from making it through to parliamentary processes. Tabling the budget of his department in the National Assembly yesterday, Hlabisa said preparations for this year's local government elections are progressing well. And the case of a 63-year-old woman accused of killing her 8-year-old sister is back in court today. Aletta Rose made a brief appearance in court earlier this week, but the case was postponed for an administrative matter. Rose is set to hear whether an Afrikaans-speaking lawyer has been appointed to represent her. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 10 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
There's been an accident on the M1 North. It happened right near Carr Street. Delays coming out of Boyson's Road while traveling in Alexandra. We still have got that accident scene on the N3 North. It happened right after Vincent Chabalala Road. It's causing heavy traffic volumes. Please be on the lookout there. If you are heading towards the N3 exit, do expect more delays rather due to another accident scene along Waterfontein Road just before the N3 exit. And then traveling on the R24 West, there's queuing traffic between Edenville Road and the N12 merge. In the city of Tshwane, we've got a slight backup reported along the N1 North approaching John Foster Drive. That's due to roadworks along this route. Please approach with care. More updates coming up. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Part of the 702 family.
Hi, 702 family. My name is David Khasao. I'm from Naturena, Soweto. I've been listening to 702 since I was still young. At the age of 20, even today, I'm still listening to 702. So I'm gaining a lot in terms of information from 702. Thank you so much.
Welcome to our 702 family. Let's walk the talk.
Apparently, something big is coming our way, Mzansi. It seems like a takeover is about to happen, and with it comes big change and even bigger ideas, more opportunities and more ways to win at life. So if you're tired of life never giving you a real chance, be on the lookout on the 1st of June 2026, because that chance you've been waiting for is finally coming home with Size Kaya. A new chapter begins. Stay tuned for updates on the 21st of May.
The world's best male and female paddle players are coming to South Africa. The historic Premier Paddle Pretoria P1 will be at Sunbet Arena Times Square from 26 July to the 2nd of August. Expect world-class action, unbelievable energy, premium hospitality, and an atmosphere unlike anything South African sport has seen before. This is Africa's biggest paddle tournament ever, and tickets are selling fast. Don't miss your chance to witness the sport's biggest stars in South Africa. Get your tickets now at primemediaplus.com.
Managing your workforce shouldn't be complicated. That's why businesses choose Onacy, a proudly South African cloud-based payroll and HR solution. From payroll and e-recruitment to performance management and self-service tools, we streamline the way businesses handle their people. Scalable, secure, and always online, our system evolves with your needs because your workforce deserves the best. Switch to Onacy and experience payroll and HR done right. Visit onacy.com today.
This Saturday, catch 702 Music with Kenny Maestri live from the Kingsmead Book Fair, brought to you by Standard Bank Wealth and Investment. We're bringing you bold ideas, big conversations, and inspiring stories as we wander into wonder. Hear from leading voices, including Standard Bank Chief Economist Gulam Balam, and dive into talks on generational wealth, global change, and the future. So don't miss 702 Music with Kenny Maestri this Saturday from 10 a.m., brought to you by Standard Bank Wealth and Investment on 702.
Open Line on the Clement Manyathela Show is brought to you by Truecaller. Trust the real ones on 702.
It's the open line, and we just had a conversation with the ANC's Phoebe Potgieter, who really was speaking to us about this move by the ANC, and we thought we should pop her in there just so that we can have proper background around this decision by the ANC, where they've called people to nominate candidates or people to volunteer for mayoral posts. And I want to hear from you about who you would nominate, if anyone. Would you nominate someone to go and run as a candidate? And the reason why we're asking this is because you hear people often saying, no, it's not the party that's the problem. It is the people. The people are the problem. If we were to get the right people, the party stands for the right things. The party, has the right principles, and we just need the right people, which I'm not sure about, and I'm not sure I agree. But then now you've got an opportunity to get your right people to be in the party. So would you nominate any people? Have you nominated any people? Because it has been open for some time. Nominations close tomorrow. How would you go about this? Another conversation that we're having, of course, is around these insurance killings. It's on the back of Rosemary Ndlovu and the latest conviction in the Kempton Park Magistrates Court yesterday, where she is being convicted of inciting or incitement to commit murder. And this is by helping secure a hitman for her colleague, Nomsa Mudau, when they were trying to murder Nomsa's husband, Justice Mudau. It's a truly outrageous story. And we're asking, has this caused you to be a little more guarded when it comes to, issues around whether when a person asks you for the death certificate, that's if you've gone through the painful process of death, but also has it caused you to be guarded when people ask you for personal information because you don't know how they are going to be using that? You have family members sometimes asking you for a copy of your ID, and people, now with what we've been seeing with these stories, Rosemary Ndlovu, Nomsa Mudau now, and Sekgomotso Setshwantsho in the Northwest. More and more of these stories are surfacing. I do see some of your voice notes. Keep them coming. The number to dial is 011-883-0702 for a call, or send me a WhatsApp on 072-702-1702.
Hi, Komoto. I just wanted to comment on what Phoebe Ngubule was saying. Phoebe Potgieter Ngubule was saying with regards to the nominations. Let me tell you this. You'd have to understand how councils work. If you're coming in as an outsider, you haven't been an ANC member, let's say you become the successful candidate, how will your fellow councillors that are coming from different areas be able to ultimately take instructions from you? Because you haven't been in the trenches with them. There's no way that you're going to have a working relationship with them. And in fact, it would make the working relationship much worse for you. So I don't see how this ultimately works for somebody who's completely on the outside to be able to then manage councillors that have been in the ANC for many, many years. Yeah. What a strange proposition. Surely this is window dressing. There's no way it's going to work in practical terms. And this is Stephen from Randburg.
And for me, and I completely agree with what you're saying, Stephen. I can't imagine how that's going to work, especially if we have a situation, you're right, when a person is an outsider and everyone who is quote unquote an insider doesn't rate you. I can just see you being treated like an outsider. And a lot of what's happening, I know we'd like to think that it's very simple, it's service delivery, you just, you get into office and you get the job done. But a lot of it is politicking. It's politicking. And if you are not a career politician, man, I would feel very, very sorry for you.
Morning, Astromoto. This move by the African National Congress, they've just declared to the South African public and the South African community at large that they don't have credible leadership amongst their ranks. That's how now they have to get non-ANC members to be candidates of being a mayor of the city of Johannesburg. I so wish they can even elevate it to the premier of Gauteng, even to as far as the president of South Africa. We, the people of South Africa, elect the president of the country. It's a great move. I like it because it shows there's no credible leadership within the ANC. Because the ANC over the years has attracted criminals who are masquerading as politicians. Hence, the ANC is in the mess that it's finding itself in today. Thank you, Sisi. Usipo Mden.
Yes, Sipo. I'm wondering how many people actually nominated anyone. That's what I'm wondering. And I was hoping we would get that from Mrs. Phoebe. I wondered, how many people nominated? Would you bother nominating? And the person that you nominate, do they want to join the party? Because if they wanted to join the ANC, they'd be ANC members, I think. So I'm very interested in how in whether there have been people that are nominated? Have those people accepted the nomination? Are they willing to join the party? Are they willing to sign some sort of declaration? All those are really interesting for me. But you're right, and it's an interesting point that you're introducing there. That it seems the message that this is sending is we have no one among ourselves, so give us people, please. There's no one that we can offer to you. And maybe it does seem like this is an attempt by the ANC to say, listen, we are your party. We are a party for the people. We want to hear from you. We care what you want. I think that's the idea here. But I think it's interesting that you're saying this sends a very different message when it comes to this. Let's take more voice notes.
Komut and the team, I think the insurance companies must play a big role here. It's their responsibility, because I remember when we took insurances with my ex-husband in the 90s, we were both there. I insured him, he insured me. I mean, he was a beneficiary on my insurance. Life cover, I was a beneficiary on his life cover. And I used to know about it and everything. So insurances must ask that person, the beneficiary or the person who's going to be insured, to be there with the insurer. They must both be there. And then I'm aware that somebody insured me. Even if I die tomorrow, they claim money. I know I gave the consent. This thing of insuring people without consent is nonsense. And the insurance must take the responsibility. That's my take on that one. It's Veronica from Spraiview. Thank you.
These things of insurance, Homozo. My name is Solomon Centurion. I attended a funeral a few weeks ago. So now they've bought the casket and whatnot. And maybe a couple of days before the funeral, few people are asking for death certificate. And the widow is refusing. It's telling them that it's not going to give to them because they registered with insurance and those funeral services companies. They gotten, there's about 5 or 6 people that were suspected to have gotten the money, and they were refusing to contribute to the groceries. It was tragic and funny at the same time. I agree that there's something unethical about this thing, and it must be reviewed.
Yeah, Khomotso, that's a great topic that you're talking about. So I just like to know, how do I find out, or how do I search whether the person has been covered for a life insurance after their death? Were staying with the girlfriend and they died with a gunshot, and the girlfriend is refusing with the documents of the deceased because we wanted to check what happened. So how do I go about checking whether that person was covered? Of course, the person says, no, I didn't cover this person with any insurance whatsoever. So it might be that this person, his life was taken because of the life insurance. It's possible. So we just want to investigate that. So how do I go about doing that, Sindile?
Yep, that's a great question, actually. And you should be able to check, especially if it's your loved one. I don't know if you are able to. I haven't seen, and I think many of us would like to know, particularly when people aren't upfront. You know, with the I think Abudiselo who said there's the people that would show and say, listen, I have signed them up and I'd like to go claim the money and I want to help with the funeral. That's different. But when people are shady and they are not upfront and they are not direct, I would want to find out, and I don't think you're able to. But if there are professionals in that space, people who know more about that space, I want to hear from you. Please get in touch with us. Can I check? I'm sure there's also, you know how financial institutions cannot just reveal information like this, personal information. If I have insurance policies out, I don't think you are allowed to call and say, I'm calling to find out if Khomotso has. So that might be tricky. They can't just reveal personal information like that. I wonder if there's a way to find out. And many families are concerned. Many families are concerned. Many are even convinced that is the case, but they have no way of checking and they have no way of knowing. Let's go to the lines. Joshua, you're in Wynberg. Thank you so much for your call. Good morning.
Yes, morning. Hey, I'm really concerned about those people, the safety of those people, because we have a PKTT was formed because of political killings, political deaths, or people that were killed, mostly the councillors. Now So isn't that going to be a sacrifice if they just say someone wants a volunteer from the public or someone who's maybe in the communities to go in there Isn't that going to be a sacrifice?
And Joshua, so you're saying you're concerned for the people, for the volunteers or the people that are nominated?
Yeah, so because people, they are members of the ANC, that position, it's not that people don't want to go in there. It's because of maybe of fear. They know that you're not going to last if you go in there. Because they know even their salaries, they know the money. And you start come out, they know your car, they target it, they kill you, then they'll keep on looking for someone every now and then because there will be deaths all over. And you're not going to be, the killers won't be found. Or even if they are found, they're not going to be prosecuted that much because they will be protected. Because the ANC, they can't claim innocent or maybe claim that the ANC itself is clean. It can't be clean if they are members, they are not. Because those members, the ANC is a document. So we're referring to a document. Those people will they're making the ANC living. It's a living document if the people are behind it are doing the right things. So if they're doing the wrong things, it's the ANC itself.
Well,
So
I think it's important, Joshua, just to highlight that the ANC does have a strong stance against these political killings, and they are very vocal about that. But I do think that you're raising an important point just around political killings in general and how it's just so hotly contested in that space and how people may not be safe because other people may not be happy that they've been nominated. And this is what I was speaking about to say, when it's politicking more than it is about leading and service delivery, a big part of it is about politicking. And the politicking,
100%.
and I think candidates can be swallowed in the politicking over doing the job. And when you are not a career politician and you don't know how these things work, it can be so difficult operating in that space. I would feel so sorry for a person who is appointed just based on merit, because merit isn't what's going to keep them there. The politics, they get, quite heavy in spaces like that.
Yeah, I think that also the system, because their system, their policies and procedures. So those things were destroyed because of the organization. They don't want to go through the communication line. There is a structures that they have to. You can't have a minister going to talk into implementation on the ground.
Yeah.
You got a mayor. We got the mayor of a city of Joburg. When they talk about the issues of water, he is there to talk about it. Even give a wrong time frames. And when they say no, within 14 days, he doesn't know even the pumping capacity, the carrying capacity of those reservoirs, the pumping capacity of those machines that they have, the volume that the pipes can carry. He doesn't know about those ones. There is also quality unit that has to check the quality of the water before it goes into that tank, into that reservoir, before it's been distributed to the communities. So those systems are being destroyed. You only have the implemented, maybe the mayor at the end, just pump the water to the people. Doesn't check the quality of the water that the people. We have issues in Hammanskraal. It's going to be the same thing. So,
Joshua and Weinberg, thank you so much for this. I do have to take more calls, but thank you for that contribution. Thank you so much for your call. Yvonne, you're in Rudaport. Good morning. Thank you so much for holding. Go ahead.
Hi, Humoso. I don't know. I wanted to double check that we are not on April Fool's Day. What would happen if we take our blue lady that swims around, what's her name? Helen Ziller, the mayoral candidate, and we nominate her, and she wins on merit, and she now has to be sitting in the ANC with a dual membership like Jacob Zuma. And then she gets nominated by the DA and the ANC. How would that work? That's why I think this whole thing is a joke.
Well, look, she'd first have to accept the nomination. And maybe I also should have asked, if you were nominated, would you accept the nomination?
Yeah, I see.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your call, Yvonne in Rudaport. it's, I mean, would you accept? Maybe someone sees the talent in you and sees the passion that you have for your community and sees what you could do, but they know that you don't have the constituents, you don't have the means, you wouldn't know how to run. And then they nominate you and they say, listen, go and go to the ANC and be a politician. I mean, I found it interesting that they say you'd have to join. So you'd be asked to join the party and then you'd have to sign. So now you become a member of the ANC. Would you do that in the interest of your community? Because maybe you feel you are the person to save your community. You are the person to get things done. I wonder. Thank you so much for your calls. Thank you for your WhatsApps. Thank you so much for weighing in.
These calls.
No! This was us before. Our dinner time being interrupted by unverified calls. My husband, 5 to being scammed. Upgrade to Truecaller Premium Family Plan. Protects up to 5 people for just 49 Rand 99 per month. Hubby chooses what to answer and auntie knows what's real. Besemina, I get my peaceful family dinner time. Truecaller, trust the real ones. Available on the Play Store and the App Store.
702 Josie My Josie Walk the Talk is calling on you to walk with the people for the people on Sunday the 26th of July. Babiza bonke. And this year you can choose from 3 different inner city routes. The 8-kilometer 44 Main Street route takes you from Ellis Park through Maboneng and Jewel City past the Field of Dreams and Maharishi Invincibility Institute. Then you go through the Main Street precinct, Gandhi Square, and past the Carlton Center, finishing off at Ellis Park. So whether you're walking 8 kilometers, 5 kilometers, or 15 kilometers, enter now on primemediaplus.com and get ready for the 702 Josie My Josie Walk the Talk, hosted by the City of Johannesburg.
Brush, stroke, paint, color, protect, and admire. From roof paint to exterior textures and interior silk, Warrior Paints has it all. The product range and stylish colors are amazing. And what's more, Warrior Paints has crushed prices for incredible savings. Enjoy that good old-fashioned personal service you deserve. For price, quality, variety, and service, Warrior Paints is street ahead. Warrior Paints, affordable, lasting, luxury.
Joburg is more than just a city. It's an energy, a pulse, and a feeling connecting everybody. The heart of Mzansi.
It's Joburg.
In celebration of this, 702 has partnered with Josie My Josie, and we're calling on you to walk through the city center with us.
Walk the talk.
In the 702 Josie My Josie Walk the Talk. Babize bonke. On Sunday, 26 July, we're going to the iconic Joburg CBD, the home of dream creators and operators, where we dominate and history make. So join us and be a part of something special.
I'm ready to rock this book.
Because when Joburg walks together, extraordinary things happen. Enter now on primemediaplus.com and get ready for 702 Josie My Josie Walk the Talk this July, hosted by the City of Johannesburg. Walk with the people, for the people, for our Josie. Babize bonke. Enter Walk the Talk now on primemediaplus.com.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
Welcome back. So the Kingsmead Book Fair 2026, proudly supported by Standard Bank Wealth and Investment, is a platform for dialogue, discovery, and human connection, guided by the theme Wonder into Wonder. The fair brings together authors, thinkers, and readers in a meaningful space where ideas are explored, conversations are sparked, and communities connect. Today, we're joined by Lucretia Mate, the Client Value Proposition Head at Standard Bank Wealth and Investment, to chat about the event, storytelling, and the importance of legacy on 702. Lucretia, good morning. Thank you so much for your time.
Good morning, Khumuta, and good morning to the 702 listeners.
You know, when we talk about wealth transfer, the conversation is usually about finance and it's financial, but what else should families be passing on to the next generation?
Thanks, Khumuta. So financial capital is only one part of the equation, right? So for wealth to endure and remain meaningful, families should be equally intentional about transferring things like your values and identity, which is about a clear understanding of what the family stands for, including your integrity, resilience, and the social responsibility. They must be clear about the purpose and the legacy intent behind it, especially, and that creates understanding around how wealth exists, how it was created, and how it was formulated. There's cultural heritage that's also important, especially in the African context. So your languages, your traditions, your original stories. And then more importantly is the networks and the social capital that is actually part and parcel of what you actually inherit from the business or from your family. It's quite important to understand those frameworks, including the governance and the decision-making frameworks. When that is very clear, then it is actually then important, or it's easy for the family to be able to interconnect it in terms of what it is that they want to do and how they actually want to pass on the legacy. So as I said, financial capital is only one of them.
Yeah. And how would families approach conversations around legacy, around values, and financial literacy in order to start earlier within families?
Any engagement is important. It allows families to shape mindsets before lifestyle solidify expectations. So as you grow up in your development stages, you need to understand your own identity as a person as well as your identity within the family structure. It tends wealth from something that is just inherited to something that is understood and eventually that is responsibly managed. So if you really think about it, meaningful investment and involvement should start very early on, because in that period you can actually start introducing things like financial prudence. You can teach structural business elements, and you can actually prepare the next gen from a psychological perspective for them to be able to actually then take on. More importantly, I think it normalizes the conversation about money. It helps children connect the effort in creating that wealth in the first place as well as the outcome thereof. And then it actually then removes or prevents, that feeling of I actually don't know, and the anxiety around wealth, and it grounds them to be able to actually then say, this is who we are as part of the family, and if should I take on as the head of the family, these are the expectations that are on me.
Yeah. This partnership between Standard Bank Wealth and Investment together with the Kingsmead Book Fair, it sounds very intentional. Why is supporting these spaces of learning, literature, and dialogue important for you?
So Kingsmead is now in its 14th year, which is a really great fair. It promotes literacy and encourages a love of learning. For us as a headline sponsor, we've actually been headlining sponsoring for the last 9 years in a row. We believe that this partnership reflects our commitment to education, it reflects our commitment to literacy and meaningful dialogue, and it actually explores things around curiosity and growth across generations. So when you actually think about, you spoke about the Wonder into Wonder. So this year's main theme from a Kingston perspective is One Small Chapter, One Giant Leap, which we then expanded into Wonder into Wonder. And really it speaks about igniting a world of imagination and curiosity. And through learning, you really get to be able to explore worlds that you've never even thought about. So if you think about from an African context perspective, we would read about snow when we had never even seen snow in our lives. And that really expanded our curiosity and the worldly view that we would later on be able to explore on a physical sense.
Yeah, I mean, when we speak about wonder, you think curiosity, right? What would you encourage young Africans to remain curious about, as they prepare and gear up for the future?
So curiosity is one of the most invaluable assets, and I think it's often underutilized. So when you think about Africa as a rapidly evolving continent as well as a young continent, we want the young people to really think about how wealth is created and sustained, in particular in the African context as well as the South African context. Just the yearning to learn and to actually understand around investing, compounding, preserving wealth across generations, and not just consuming for the now, but making sure that it actually follows you in the legacy that you create moving forward. The second thing is about identity and heritage. That's how wealth is created in the Western world and how wealth is created in Africa. If you look at what the likes of Aliko Dangote is actually doing, it's entrenching us as Africans from an investment perspective in investing not only in ourselves but also in the generations to come. And then lastly, I would say global and local opportunities from a technology perspective, from an innovation perspective. If you do that, the future will favor those who can actually connect knowledge across disciplines. So think critically, adapt quickly, and then remain curious, because when you remain curious, it ensures that young Africans are not just inheritors of wealth, but they're active builders of Africa's next chapter.
Lucretia, thank you so much for your time. That's Lucretia Mate, and she's the head of client value proposition at Standard Bank. Thank you so much for that. When we come back, we're going to be having our conversation or hanging out with Tebogo Kas. It's 10 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. We begin in Mpumalanga, where at least 9 people have died when a taxi and a bus collided near Standerton. Transport authorities say the taxi was transporting passengers towards Megazone this morning. 8 people were declared dead on the scene, while the 9th victim died while being sent to hospital. Mpumalanga Transport Department spokesperson Mweti Musi.
It is not clear as to what led to the collision. However, reckless and negligent driving could not be ruled out at this stage.
Police are monitoring a student protest at the University of the Western Cape this morning. Students are demanding urgent maintenance at campus residences. They say they've given management 2 days to address their concerns following a meeting on Monday. Ntutuzelo Nene is there.
This demonstration comes at a critical time. Media exams are also underway at the university. About 100 students are marching to the university's main campus. Frustrated students say they are taking their concerns directly to the institution's management. Students claim their complaints of, among other things, poor maintenance at residences, inadequate shower facilities, poor cooking conditions, and unstable Wi-Fi connectivity affects academic performance and are not taken seriously by university officials. Student leaders say they have repeatedly raised these issues with management since 2023 with little progress. The protest also comes a day before an oversight visit by Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Higher Education. Ndutuzelo Nene, Eyewitness News at UWC.
The South African Human Rights Commission is today concluding its public hearings into Gauteng's worsening water crisis. The Commission is investigating whether repeated and prolonged water outages, infrastructure failure, and inconsistent access to clean water constitute a systemic violation of human or basic human rights. Kosikona Malingamnisi reports.
Over the course of the hearings, the Commission has heard testimony from municipal officials, water entities, civil society organizations, and community representatives. Stakeholders, including advocacy group Water Can, outlined concerns over aging infrastructure, poor maintenance, governance failures, and the long-term sustainability of Gauteng's water supply system. The hearings have also examined the social and economic consequences of the crisis, especially in vulnerable communities where residents are often forced to rely on water tankers and unsafe alternative sources. The Commission says the inquiry aims to determine accountability and identify urgent interventions needed to address the ongoing crisis and prevent further violations of residents' rights. Kona Malingamnisi, Eyewitness News in Johannesburg.
And Cooperative Governance Minister Velenkosi Nihlabisa is promising greater stability in municipal councils after the November polls, with coalition governments being subjected to binding legal agreements. However, the legislation to give effect to this is still a long way off from making it through to parliamentary processes. Tabling his department's budget yesterday in the National Assembly, Hlabisa said preparations for this year's local government elections are going well. Lindsay Dentlinga reports.
With a review on the white paper on local government now complete, Minister Velenkosi Nihlabisa says the next step is to advance legislative reforms to give effect to this policy. A raft of bills is in the pipeline aimed at improving the way municipal councils function and to improve the services they deliver.
These reforms are about one thing: stabilizing municipalities so that service delivery becomes reliable, predictable, and consistent.
However, the so-called coalitions bill is still a work in progress as the department seeks to reach a compromise with the DA over a similar bill it tabled last year that preempted an executive bill. Meanwhile, Hlabisa says other measures are already in place in preparation for the municipal elections, including an interministerial committee, the finalization of councillor numbers, and the delimitation of 4,488 wards nationally. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
Gold is trading at $4,543.79 an ounce. The rand is at 16.47 to the dollar, 22.13 to the pound, 19.16 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $105.74 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got delays on the N3 North. This is between Modderfontein Road and Marlborough Drive. That's due to an accident. There's also queuing traffic reported on the N12 West between Edenville Road and the Kilulis interchange.
A cloudy day in store for Gauteng. The temperatures will peak at highs between 19 and 20 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. At least 9 people have died in Mpumalanga when a taxi and a bus collided near Standerton.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
We're calling on Joburg to walk the inner city with us. In 702 Josie My Josie, walk the talk. Babize bonke. Enter now on primemediaplus.com.
702.
Live
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
Welcome back. It's 7 minutes past 10 right here on the Clement Manyathela Show. My name is Komuzo Modise. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for a fantastic first hour. It was the open line. Thank you for your calls and your WhatsApps. To catch up on it, if you missed it, or to listen back, you can find it on the Prime Media Plus app or on our YouTube. Coming up in the next hour, we're hanging out with social justice activist Tebogo Kas, someone whose work I really look up to. He's an entrepreneur as well, and he's a writer too, and he does it all somehow. He finds the time and the ability to do it all so well. He's going to be joining us in the next hour. Do you know, and what do you know about Tebogo Kas? And what are your thoughts on his career and his activism? Get in touch with us. We're taking your calls on 011 883 0702 or 72 702 1702.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
So we're hanging out with a man who has built his life around a singular conviction that entrepreneurs, ethics, and the public interest belong in the same sentence. Tebogo Kas, a Soweto-born entrepreneur, writer, political analyst, social justice activist. He's a global chief entrepreneur at the Institute of Chartered Entrepreneurs, and he's the founder and chairperson of Public Interest SA, a civil society organization dedicated to ethics, transparency, and accountability in South Africa. He's also the convener of the annual Whistleblower Awards, which honors South Africans who risk everything to expose wrongdoing. Today, we get to know him better as an entrepreneur, an activist, thinker, and everything in between. Tebogo Kas joins us now on the line. Good morning. Thank you so much for your time, Tebogo.
Good morning, Homuto. To what do I owe the honor of joining you this morning? I really I'm grateful for the opportunity to have a chat with you.
Listen, right back at you. Very grateful for the opportunity to be with you today. I mean, I learned when I was reading a little more about you that you grew up in Dube in Soweto. And I found that to be interesting because that's just a stone throw away from where I grew up in Orlando in Soweto.
Wow, what a coincidence. Which part of Orlando West or Orlando
East? So it's a little further from Dube. Orlando East, yes. That's...
Yeah, towards Bosofasonke, the Kupanes.
Nkomiashaba. Yes, that area.
No, we are literally neighbors. I mean, we used to walk from Dube to Orlando Stadium. As kids to go and watch games there, although we used to get marked on our way there to go to Jake to swim. But such are the formative years that we endured. But yes, we are practically neighbors, Orlando and Dube.
Yes, and I understand that shaped and formed a lot of what you have become and the values that you hold as well.
Yes, certainly it has contributed to that. But in fact, maybe as time goes on, I'll let you in on this one. My formative years actually were accidental in the sense that that later informed my attitude or to life and the life of giving, the life of service to others, because one had to be grateful to the kindness of the communities within which one grew up. I remember when we were still young, you'd look up to to professionals or elderly people, especially those who were doing things for communities that they were in. And also certainly myself, having been raised by my maternal grandparents, they also instill certain values which you observe their contribution to civil society, whether it's churches or just communities. Those are some of the things that tend to shape one's outlook towards life and later in life. And certainly, yes, my formative years have got a lot to do with the work that I do. You've mentioned governance, ethics, entrepreneurship. All of those things, actually, those are lived experiences, even including the people that I lived or grew under.
Yeah. And have you always been the type of man to wear so many hats? I mean, entrepreneur, writer, activist. I mean, what don't you do?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, I get bored easily. You know, I remember later on in my life, a good friend of mine once mentioned to me that I'm unemployable. And I took offense at the time, but it later dawned on me that indeed I'm unemployable because I tend to get bored easily. I like to start things and get involved in running them, but the nitty-gritties I tend to rely on the technicians or the technical guys to actually do that. So yes, certainly it helps when you've got a lot of things that you can, set your sights on or keep yourself busy with. But however, there's an interrelationship in terms of all the things that I do. You've mentioned the Institute of Chartered Entrepreneurship, which seeks to foster ethical entrepreneurship within the entrepreneur sector. And you're talking about public interest. We talk about governance, ethics, justice. So justice manifests in various ways, be it in entrepreneurship, be it just in community justice. So those are actually all interrelated, and they draw from the same fiber, which is how I was actually brought up and the values that I imbibed growing up.
Yeah. I mean, speaking about the Chartered Entrepreneurs or the Institute of Chartered Entrepreneurs, it's about professionalizing entrepreneurship in South Africa. That sounds to me like it's an oxymoron. I've never heard the two in the same sentence. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, and thank you for that question. You know, we were fortunate that when we were growing up, we were exposed to the likes of Ntate Magwenya. I mean, I went to primary school with one of her daughters. You actually see how they conducted themselves, and you always wanted to emulate how they not only were in a quest or in a push for profit making, which is what entrepreneurship is about, and risk taking, but also how they also cared for the communities in terms of their entrepreneurship. But at the end of it all is that they were not profit driven to the exclusion of everything else. I mean, they've contributed to social causes, like even including contributing to the liberation struggle through whatever profits or mega profits that they were able to set aside to do exactly that. And that for me instill certain values that later on in life we see them missing, or there's a death, if I may say, of those values insofar as entrepreneurship is concerned. And that is why when you listen to, or if you follow the Zondo Commission, for example, you'd see how entrepreneurship lost its cause in certain instances. You were business people or entrepreneurs would do things that they would otherwise later on regret, some of them, just for the expediency of making money and the demands of society that you should actually show your wealth to make sure that you've arrived or you've succeeded in life.
Yeah, and maybe that's why South Africans have come up with the term tendrapreneurs, to draw a clear distinction between what people might think to be legitimate entrepreneurs and tendrapreneurs, which can be legitimate but isn't always.
No, absolutely, absolutely, and it is trying to ensure that we encourage or inculcate in the minds of entrepreneurs that entrepreneurship, it's a journey and it's more like a marathon. I remember Ntate Kupane, who used to tell us that, it is not how fast you can run, but is what destination you've set yourself and the cost that you're taking to reach that. And those are some of the entrepreneurs that we imbibe these values from. And we see them more and more, being stripped in the course of people trying to get rich quickly. And that is what the Institute is trying to also do. Because we've also suffered as entrepreneurs. We've got personal experiences where with an IT background, you suddenly see somebody who comes with a qualification or experience in a different field altogether, coming in and taking the opportunities that are meant for upstarts IT companies with the requisite experience, attitude, and determination to make it. And only because of their political connectedness, they end up muscling in and stripping those opportunities away from deserving entrepreneurs. And those are some of the things that actually drives me, or that drives some of the people that I work with, to ensure that we encourage people to actually do things above board, and to make sure that the ethics, as you rightly put it, the term ethical entrepreneurship is not a term that one comes across often. But ethical entrepreneurship means anything and everything that you would think of that makes a business conduct itself in a manner that seeks to ensure that everything is around above board. And it's aligned with not only the laws of the countries, including compliances, and that is something that I also take into my work with public interest essay in terms of public institutions, especially compliance to the prescripts, governing prescripts, whether it's in supply chain management or ethics in terms of just how they govern themselves.
Yeah, we're hanging out with Tebogo. He is a social justice activist, an entrepreneur, a writer, a political analyst, a founder, and he's joining us this morning on the show. Let's take one of his songs, one of his favorite songs. When we come back, we're going to talk more about this song, Tebogo. It is Ken Dono's cover of Lionel Richie's Stuck on You. Let's take a listen.
Stuck on you, got this feeling down deep in my soul that I just can't lose. Guess I'm on my way, needing a friend, and the way I feel now, I guess I'll be with you till the end. Guess I'm on my way, mighty glad you stayed. Stuck on you, been a fool too long. I guess it's time for me to come on home. Guess I'm on my way. So hard to see that a woman like you could wait around for a man like me. Guess I'm on my way, mighty glad you stayed. Down deep in my soul that I just can't lose. Guess I'm on my way, needing a friend, and the way I feel now, I guess I'll be with you till the end. Yes, I'm on my way. I'm mighty glad you stayed.
That's Stuck on You, and it's the original by Lionel Richie, one of the choices by Tebogo Kas, who is hanging out with us this morning. Tebogo, I want to ask you why this song, but I almost feel like I know because I've heard this song so many times walking through the streets somewhere in the middle of Soweto, and it's on full blast on a Sunday afternoon. So this choice does not surprise me.
No, I can tell you, Khomotso, you are quite right. We've heard this song growing up. I remember my neighbors in Soweto, who I would see, who I would Vosi, I would Manla, and all those things. They used to love Lionel Richie. Even my aunts, who also raised me, we used to love Lionel Richie. So we grew up listening to this song, Sabu Benton, and so forth. But this particular song, I chose it because it has some resonance in many ways. In a personal way, you get stuck in a relationship, not out of choice. That is, familiar relationship, and there are also relationships that you get stuck into because they're a cause that is closer to your heart, and you just use that to actually say, whatever the journey, whatever the trials and tribulations, I am stuck on this road, and which is what I want to interpret it in a business sense, that we are stuck together to ensure that we find solutions to the problems afflicting or confronting us as a society in South Africa, including matters of economic inclusion and so forth.
Yeah.
So over and above just the fact that it just reminds me of somebody special who once came into my life. Unfortunately, we never got to settle. And every time that their memory comes to mind, it gets stuck. It gets stuck on me.
I think it's time you tell them.
No, that much they know. That much they know. But I think we still maintain the relationship is more platonic and all that. They're a good friend, and I think we'd rather keep it that way because it's much more better that way. But we are stuck on each other, and we do exchange compliments or pleasantries from time to time. So, and by the way, as South Africans, we are stuck on each other. The problems that we are all facing, they are not problems that are only afflicting us. They're afflicting all of us. And we take in all of society to actually resolve these problems that we are settled with. That is me trying to politicize what is otherwise a love song.
We're speaking to Tebogo Kas. Have you read some of his work? I can tell you now that whenever I come across a piece with his name there in the front, I pay attention. I read it because I know that it will be beautifully crafted, beautifully worded, and his thoughts will be expressed so eloquently. Of course, he is an author, but he's also very passionate about entrepreneurship. I want to take your calls. Do you have any questions for him? The number to dial is 011-883-0702 or send us a WhatsApp on 072-702-1702. He's expressed some really profound views around entrepreneurship as well, a space that he's very, very passionate about. I'm interested in public interest essay, Tebogo, because that's another one of your babies. And of course, it sounds as though it's hinged on your activism in your space.
No, certainly. And when you talk about activism, some of us carved our teeth in activism. Even in the late 70s, I was still a teenager when I was barely a teenager when June 16 happened. And somewhere around the late 70s, early 80s, for some strange reason, I also had an opportunity to start selling newspaper magazines. It used to be called the Voice of the Voiceless People. That shaped, my political outlook and made and presented me into the Black consciousness framework, political, movement, as it were, which was even much more cultivated when I reached university in the early 80s, and having to work with the stalwarts of the struggles or the people that later also achieved quite a lot. Not only academically, but also insofar as their contribution to society politically. And for me, it is something that one couldn't abandon one once started to become reach into adulthood and contribute into society, because whatever we do in life, it is all politics. There is a political economy that we participate on a daily basis, whether we like it or not. We get affected by things that are around us, or that impact on our daily lives. So politics has always been central to me. So how public interest was formed in 2008, that also came out of a realization that being transfixed. I told you earlier when you started that I tend to get bored easily. I get bored easily when I have to also conform to certain protocol. When you are working in a political environment or within a political party, for example, you're going to have to follow protocol. If a decision has been made and taken that you may not politically want to align yourself with, it actually becomes difficult for you to actually assert yourself and advance your view, even if in the end you might turn out to be correct. Then I realized that the only way one could actually still contribute politically without being part of any political formation, that was the establishment of Public Interest SA in 2008, which has been a fulfilling journey for me, because with that instrument, one was able to delve into various facets of life. If you look at the programs that Public Interest SA does, we involved in economic inclusion on the one hand, we are involved in public procurement on the other, you are involved in governance, which also include whistleblowing and electoral integrity, as you rightly mentioned, whistleblowing earlier, and as well as justice and equity, which gives us an opportunity to contribute in society. For example, in justice and equity, we also work with South African Police Service to see how we can also help them improve policing or modernize policing. So that on its own, public interest has been a canvas for me to be able to be exposed to so many things in life. And that on its own, it's a pleasure that that sustains me, working odious amount of hours through that. And for me, the most enriching part of the work is when you hear from somebody whom you have never met or heard about, somewhere in the corner of the hinterland of South Africa, dropping you a note, thanking you or appreciating the work that you may have done that may have had an impact on theirs, which for me is something that is priceless. And that is what public interest stands for, without going into the details as to what each of the 4 programs is all about. But that also gives one exposure to not only local issues, but also to explore how the world works and how we can benefit from the rest of the world, and how the rest of the world can also learn from South Africa, because there are teachable moments that we can also export through public interest participation. And that, for me, it is something that gives me a reason to exist, over and above my 3 kids, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, they're no longer kids because they're all adults now. But certainly that, for me, that gives me pleasure and purpose in life. And that we also say that we are no longer involved in communities or in society as we ought to. Most of us have abandoned or abdicated our responsibilities or role in society. We expect things to happen for us, not through us. Once we've achieved a certain level of personal, achievements, or whether it's financial or otherwise, we tend to think problems belong elsewhere, not here. We live in gated communities. We think we are secure when we are not. Secure. We may think we are. We may think that our kids go to private schools. Therefore, we shouldn't be bothered about what's happening in the primary schools. Which is why I keep saying to my alma maters, or people who actually were at primary schools with, I won't mention names, every time I bump into them and say, what can we do to make sure that we contribute to the very primary schools or secondary schools that shaped us, into the adults and members of society that we currently are. So public interest, for me, it's a labor of love, and one can only go as far as one's imagination and resources are concerned.
We're speaking to Tebogo Khas, and we have him on the line. Let's take our news headlines, and we'll be back with more from him after this. Fiso Zulu standing by. Good morning.
Thanks, Khomutso. Good morning. The criminal cases of suspended police sergeant Fani Nkosi have been combined. Nkosi appeared briefly before the Pretoria North Magistrates Court this morning. The possible centralization of the cases will now happen on the 22nd of July. The suspended officer remains behind bars after he was denied bail last month, with the court finding he could evade trial if released. The South African Human Rights Commission is today concluding its public hearings into Gauteng's worsening crisis. The Commission is investigating whether repeated and prolonged water outages, infrastructure failures, and inconsistent access to clean water constitute a systemic violation of basic human rights. And Pakistan's army chief is expected to visit Iran today, with Islamabad mediating as the Islamic Republic examines a new U.S. proposal to end the Middle East war. The reported visit by Fadil Mashal Asim Manir, a powerful figure with a growing role in Pakistan's foreign relations, comes a day after U.S. President Donald Trump warned that negotiations to end the war were on the borderline between a deal and a renewed strikes. Those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 11 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
If you're traveling on the N12 West, be on the lookout for some delays approaching the Kiluli's interchange coming out of Edenville Road, while in Fourways we still have got some delays along Winnie Mandela Drive between Witkoppen Road and Leslie. That's due to faulty traffic lights there. There's also queuing traffic reported on the M2 West between Main Reef Road and Amalgam, while heading towards Deep Kloof. Do expect delays on the N1 South approaching the Deep Kloof interchange. In the city of Tshwane, we've got some issues along the N1 North. Roadworks are causing some issues just as you approach the John Foster Drive exit. Please be on the lookout there. More updates coming up. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9.
What happens if you sustain an injury at work? One of the ways in which you could get relief is to apply for funding from the compensation fund. But that fund has now been leaking money in the millions. 71 million rand has reportedly gone missing, giving workers little cover for liability for disasters in the workplace. How does 71 million rand go poof, missing?
One of it is where we identified intercepted payments. Typically, you process the payments that you want to make, meaning for the claims. You push it through to the bank. We've identified that the bank accounts that were meant to be receiving this money would have been changed such that the bank accounts that eventually received the money are those that are unknown, at least so far as the beneficiary listing of the compensation fund is concerned. That is worrisome.
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
The 702 Josie My Josie Walk the Talk is calling on you to walk with the people for the people on Sunday, the 26th of July. Babize bonke. And this year, you can choose from 3 different inner city routes. The 5-kilometer Victoria Yards route takes you from Ellis Park through the inspirational Joburg Cricket Club into Victoria Yards and past the Troyville Hotel. You then finish off at Ellis Park. So whether you're taking on the 5-kilometer, the 8-kilometer, or 15-kilometer, enter now on primemediaplus.com and get ready for the 702 Josie My Josie Walk the Talk, hosted by the City of Johannesburg.
I like building things.
Where small hands start imagining bigger worlds. Each block a new chance to try again.
We share what we learn, giving teachers the tools to help more children build, think and grow. And through our toy libraries, play reaches children everywhere, opening more doors to learn.
We are play experts, helping children build possibilities as strong as the worlds they imagine.
One day I'll build something big.
Cortland's Clay Engineered. Help us build brighter futures. Donate today at cortlands.org.
Running a truck fleet business in this economy is tough. Fuel, maintenance, staff, the costs never stop. That's why I switched to My Way Business Insurance. Now I save up to 20% on my insurance premiums every month. These savings go a long way to keeping my fleet on the move.
Switch to My Way Business Insurance and save up to 20% on your trucks and buses. Real businesses, real savings. Call us on 0860 646464 for a quote today. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. Standard rates and T's and C's apply.
Sometimes all it takes to reshape the world and deliver better outcomes is a little unconventional thinking. Black Sheep Thinking, powered by Camissa Asset Management.
In cockpit
cockpits and control rooms around the world, experienced pilots have faced a different reality. The system says one thing, the world says another. And in those moments, the best don't follow the signal, they question it. And this is lessons from black sheep thinking, free thinking, but questioning the data. Disasters are avoided when humans erode faulty systems. Training rewritten to prioritize judgment over automation. A new rule emerged to verify, don't just follow. And that's the big thing and the big lesson from today. When the data and reality disagree, just look up.
Black Sheep Thinking, every Tuesday on 702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa. Powered by Camissa Asset Management. Invest different. Camissa Asset Management is a licensed FSP on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
Welcome back. This is the Clement Manyathela Show. We are hanging out with Tebogo Kas this morning, and he's an entrepreneur, an activist, he's a political analyst, he's a writer, he's a founder, chairperson of Public Interest SA, and he does a whole lot. He's also a father of 4, and he joins us now on the line. We've been having a lovely conversation with him about the work that he does. Tebogo, I want to speak about the Whistleblower Awards. You know, whenever we speak and think about whistleblowers now, it's such a difficult conversation to have. But also, many people, have this. There's a fear, of course, that comes with it. It seems like a thankless job, a thankless task. And you've decided to start these annual Whistleblower Awards.
Yeah, that is an emotional project and something very close to my heart, which I had no option but to ensure that one gets to see what can be done to help intercede and contribute to society in support of those who sacrifice so much to ensure that our democracy works. And that on its own resonated with our payoff line as public interest, which is let's make our democracy work. Now, these are individuals who see wrongdoing wherever they are, whether at work, across society, in the public sector, in the private sector, and who say we need to speak up against wrongdoing. And wrongdoing manifests in various ways. And that is something also very personal. My personal experiences also, there was a time in my life, young as I was during my formative years, where I felt society could be standing up and saying something. And one is grateful for those adults in my life at the time who stood up and said, look, we'll intercede on behalf. And you find that, in today's life, where because we become so insular, I don't care. It doesn't concern me that I see somebody suffering or going through some challenges, as long as I'm okay. So much so that it has led us to a situation that even if we cannot walk in downtown Joburg without the worry of being accosted by some or the other person to relieve you of your goods or to even attack you, or even gender-based violence because you say, So whistleblowers are people who take it upon themselves to ensure they live up to the values of our Constitution, which puts us, or which enjoins every one of us to ensure that we make our democracy, we always retether our conscience to our founding values of the Constitution. And whistleblowers have been on the short end of the stick, insofar as support from society as well as from government or even their employers. In most instances, it is lip service that is paid even by corporates who, on the one hand, they'll be saying they support whistleblowers and all that, but they go on to condone retaliation. They go on to penalize them. They go on to shun them. Most of them, after having given so much to society, you find them unemployed because they are retaliated on, or they've been personally, dragged to court on frivolous charges. And those, for me, are the kind of things that resonate with my being, with something that I believe that you want to stand with the weak in society, or those who are wronged, or those who are, or who may seem that they are standing alone, and you say you won't walk alone. That is why we actually now started the Whistleblower Awards and Summit, which is now in its 4th year, with the first one, the inaugural one, having been in 2000. 23. And we wouldn't be here, we wouldn't be, achieved some of the objectives that we had set ourselves. In fact, we have exceeded. If it was not for some of our partners, including people who are vilified or entities that are vilified in society, who have done well to actually try and help drive the message of ethical leadership, ethical citizenship through the support of this cause. And here I'm talking about institutions like ESCOM, the IDC, and others who have been unwaveringly behind the cause of making sure that we try and make this place a better place for those who blow the whistle on malfeasance. Yes, we don't always achieve all that we seek to do, but I think we're on a good path. And we see society more and more becoming more and more warming up to the idea of somebody speaking out when they see wrongdoing. In the past, we grew up saying somebody can be. Maybe it fitted the era at the time, it was relevant. But now speaking up shouldn't be at all likened with Bumpimpi as we were growing up during the struggle days, because here you are actually raising your voice to help all members of society. It shows of selflessness. And that for me is something that we call in society to walk the talk. When we say, we want people to do right, let us recognize those who do right. Some of them end up paying the ultimate price. You talk about the Babita Diocardans of this world. You talk about the Mpoma Folia of this world. You talk about Mabini in the Eastern Cape and many others. Jimmy Muthala in Mpumalanga and so many who have sacrificed. Families have lost breadwinners. Yeah. And we cannot, as a society, fold our hands and do nothing when we can intervene, even if just by way of moral support and seeking avenues to ensure that the pain is mitigated or minimized insofar as those who are doing so much for society and of whom we ask, of everybody we ask.
Yeah. Three Little Birds, Bob Marley. What's this all about?
Well, it's a song of hope. And, we say to people who may be enduring adversity now, that don't worry. Everything's going to be all right. I know that when you've lost your loved one because you've done well for society or you've done what you believe was expected of you, saying don't worry, things are going to be okay, is not enough when your children are left fatherless, are left motherless, are left parents, and their future is just nothing but a blur. They're not sure what's going to happen as far as their education is concerned, because society, and especially those with the constitutional power vested in them to do right, they are actually not doing right. So it is a little way of saying to those who give of society, even if you might be, reaching a stage where you think all is lost, don't worry. It's a message of hope, and not only to whistleblowers or those who've lost loved ones, but even to society as a whole. It's a positive message that things are going to be all right insofar as our democracy is concerned. We may think we've reached the end of the world. We may think, our politicians are letting us down. There's nothing to be done. We're saying, let us do in our little space, do that which we can do, and things are going to be all right. Which is where and by the way, who can say no to the rhythm and and catchy phrases that come with the song? Yeah. Three little
birds.
Yeah, birds. Sorry. Yes. Right. I almost said monkeys.
Yeah, let's take a listen to Three Little Birds, not Monkeys, by Bob Marley.
About a
Truly a classic, Three Little Birds by Bob Marley. It's the choice of Tebogo Kas, who we are hanging out with this morning. He's a social justice activist and an entrepreneur, among many other things. Tebogo, your mantra or your motto is rather interesting. True leadership is not measured by the power you wield, but by the integrity you uphold and the justice you fight for, even when no one is watching you. Profound.
No, thank you so much. And I try to live up to that motto or that mantra, because oftentimes we do things because we want affirmation or because we want praise, public praise. And oftentimes we do things that we would be ashamed of later only because nobody's watching or is seeing us now. You pick up something that you know that doesn't belong to you. You curse, you do things, you do wrong things, you plunder, you damage infrastructure only because you know that nobody's watching you. And what I seek to live is to say, and which is what we expect of everybody, integrity is doing the right thing even if nobody's watching. Something along this line. I think that's a famous saying that has been mentioned so many times.
Yeah.
And it is even in leadership. Just because you occupy a powerful position, you must not abuse that office, which is what also is which underlines the work of public interest essay, where we're saying to those unto whom public power or public authority is vested, to actually exercise their mandate with restraint, which is why we are often quick to intercede where we believe an injustice might occur, or it's about to occur, or has been visited upon someone. You would perhaps have picked up a story recently whereas all the focus was rightly placed on the prosecutor in Mpumalanga who didn't pitch on court. We went a step further and said, fine, let him account for his actions, which have not only embarrassed the national prosecution, but our democracy as a whole. But what is the role of those who are meant to supervise, who are meant to manage prosecutors such as him? How are they implicated in not discharging their functions at all, much as we should ask for accountability from this individual. So we're saying to those who are vested with power, don't absolve yourself and just go downward in terms of accountability. You must also point at yourself, say, what could you have done as senior managers? Is it a systemic issue, or is it something that we think others must do? Because it cannot be that we just wake up, or everybody just wake up only to realize that the prosecutor didn't turn to court in a matter as important as it was being heard at the Kwaggafontein Magistrate Court. So that, for me, it talks about exercise of power. And importantly, as adults, just because you are an adult doesn't mean that you are always right, or doesn't mean that you must always subject those unto whom you have authority to wrongful conduct, because it might very well be that one day the tables turn. You ask yourself, what do you expect of others with authority or in similar position? Is the kind of conduct that you'd have wished to be visited upon. And that, for me, feeds into that mantra that you've just read out. And it's something that I would encourage or try to instill through the values that I would like to instill throughout my offspring, as well as those I may have an impact or influence upon. And that is a living mantra that I hope to realize every day and for as long as I live.
Yeah. Tebogo, part of the dynamic work that you're doing is a fierce campaign that you're running for affordable internet access and digital inclusion. What's the progress there, and how's that been going?
Yeah, that is a never-ending. That is a never-ending project or war, if I may call it that. We thought that battles were being won, but I mean, you'd recall when the late former Minister of Communications, Telecoms, and of Communications, Dr. Ivy Matsepe-Cassaburi, when she was talking about inclusion, especially when it comes to access to internet, access to telecommunications, we are all excited that we're going to, at least for once, see communities, especially underserved or underprivileged communities in rural areas especially, get to access technology as an enabler for economic inclusion, because we know what technology can do. You may not necessarily need to be physically at a particular place to be productive or to contribute productively to society. And so, but technology does that. And I can go on and on, and we know what the benefits of technology, of a technology-enabled society is: knowledge-based, before even talking about AI and many other things. So in digital inclusion itself, we must fight what we call digital apartheid, where we believe that the best technology can only be concentrated in metropolitan areas, or be only accessible to the rich. When we exclude the youth, when we exclude the underprivileged, when we exclude the poor, and we should be able to see that, which is why technologies such as the one that Elon Musk is known for, which is Starlink, low Earth orbiting satellite, could actually help, but at what cost? And at what point? At what cost? I'm talking about the financial cost and also the cost of our freedom and sovereignty. And which is why that much as we want digital inclusion, but it should be in conditions that actually favor us as a country. It should be on conditions that do not surrender our sovereignty to outside, which is why the campaigns that we are about, many think that we are anti-styling or anti-this or the other. Yeah. But when in fact, we are pro-inclusion and making sure that any type of technology that can be, technology diffusion is important. We can go back to eras of DSL, telecom, and all that, and many other technologies that have been around. We say for as long as it does not cover the rest of the country or the rest of society, it is not worth pursuing.
I want to take more of your songs. You've got 2 more songs, but I don't have time for them. So I'm going to allow you to choose. So between Basin Street Blues by Duke Ellington and What a Wonderful World by Eva Cassidy, which of those would you want to hear?
Okay. I don't know what is the profile of the audience, but I'll go on a safe road and say, with the theme of what we've been discussing.
Yes.
I think I'll take the What a Wonderful World by Eva Cassidy, which is I think it's originally sung by Louis Armstrong.
Yes.
So I'll go with Eva Cassidy.
Let's take a listen to that, and when we come back, you'll tell us why.
I see trees that are green, red roses too. I watch them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue, clouds of white, bright blessed days, dark sacred nights, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of the people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? But they're really saying, I love you.
That's Eva Cassidy with What a Wonderful World. That's also an interesting choice. And the fact that you didn't choose Louis Armstrong's version.
Yes, certainly. I think the female voice is enthusing, and for me, Eva does this cover so well that it is arresting in terms of emotionally, and it talks to us having to sit back and reflect on the beauty that is abundant, especially us in South Africa. We are often too quick to criticize the NPA, to criticize IDEC, to criticize SAPS, to criticize any other person, the presidents and you them. But we don't take a moment to breathe. We don't take a moment to appreciate the kindness that is abound us. We don't take a moment to appreciate the wonderful nature. I mean, if you've traveled out of the borders of South Africa, you'd see how much we have in abundance, the beauty, the environment, and which we don't sit back and appreciate. It is a wonderful world, and South Africa sits within the world, as a part of the world, but yet we don't sit and appreciate. It's a country where you can walk into a bus or a taxi or a train and start having a conversation with a stranger. If you go many other countries, you would be hard pressed to even say hello to somebody else and that be requited. So we don't appreciate the fact that this has been a struggle forged by men and women who sacrifice a lot to deliver this democracy. It is a wonderful democracy which we don't appreciate. We've got a constitution that can allow us to say anything we like about the president. Of course, it depends, as long as it's not the public protector, because in which case you need 40,000 rands. But we can express ourselves so freely. We can engage, we can contest elections freely. We can, there's so many things to be appreciative of.
Yeah.
And it is a wonderful world. It is a wonderful world that it enjoys you and I to continue making it better, to continue making it more wonderful, to make sure that we stop the environmental degradation, to make sure that we stop the GBV, to make sure that we stop all the crime, the hate that we're causing each other on social media and all that, because it is a wonderful world.
Oh, thank you so much for that. Beautiful, beautiful contribution there. It's always lovely when you hear optimism. Someone saying, first of all, I'd like to thank you for your music choice. I like the mantra that he lives by. This has been evidenced by his public criticism of some of our partner sponsors when they do wrong. And any other leader would choose to speak to their sponsors in private. Big ups to him. That's from Kulu Pasiwe. That's all we have time for. But thank you so much for your time. And thank you so much for the contribution that you continue to make in this country.
If you're a fan of the beautiful game, you'll recognize this and this. But what about this? It's your chance to score big time. Win your share of up to 2 million rand with Standard Bank. It's game day every day. To enter, open and use any qualifying Standard Bank account, in-app or in branch. Already a Standard Bank customer? Sign up for Standard Bank Connect online to get a bonus entry. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
From the people who know FICA best, Encino KYC invites you to the 2026 Fighting Financial Crime Conference. Join top prosecutors, investigators, and compliance leaders for a day of real-world case studies, practical strategies, and powerful networking. 24th of June in Johannesburg, and tickets are on sale now. Simply Google Encino Fighting Financial Crime. That's NCINO. Proudly brought to you by Encino KYC. Fighting financial crime isn't just talk, it's what we do every day.
Still shopping around for a saving here and a deal there? Choose Checkers, SA's #1 in value supermarket, and save on deals like Lancewood cheddar or Gouda cheese, 900 grams for $139.99. Sir Fruit 100% fruit juice blend, 1.5 litre, any 2 for 89 rand. And Omo Auto liquid detergent 2 litre or capsules 20 per pack, any 2 for 200 rand. Valid until 7 June, only at Checkers.
Every week, millions of South Africans do the same thing. They pick numbers, they take a chance, and for a moment, they dream big. Now the National Lottery is entering a new chapter. On Tuesday, 26 May, Clement Manyathela will be in conversation with Sizakaya Holdings, the new operator of the National Lottery. Listen to find out what changes and what you can expect from this new era of the National Lottery. The Clement Manyathela Show, in conversation with Sizakaya Holdings. Next Tuesday on 702. Sizakaya is licensed and regulated. No persons under the age of 18 permitted to play. Play responsibly.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. The death toll has risen to 10 following a crash in Mpumalanga. It's understood that a taxi and a bus collided on the R39 near Standerton this morning. 8 people were declared dead on the scene. The 9th victim died while being sent to hospital, and the 10th person died in hospital. Mpumalanga Transport Department spokesperson Moeti Musi.
It is not clear as to what led to the collision. However, reckless and negligent driving could not be ruled out at this stage.
The criminal cases of suspended police sergeant Fanny Nkosi have been combined. Nkosi appeared in the Pretoria North Magistrates Court briefly this morning. The possible centralization of the cases will now take place on the 22nd of July. Nkosi remains behind bars after he was denied bail last month, with the court finding he could evade trial if released. Mongezi Koko reports.
The Pretoria North case stems from a raid at Nkosi's home in April where police allegedly discovered firearms, ammunition and official police dockets. Meanwhile, the Thohoyandou matter relates to allegations that Nkosi removed marijuana from police custody under false pretenses during a 2022 incident. The state now wants both matters to be dealt with together, a legal process known as centralization, which allows related cases to be heard in a single court. Nkosi's original legal team has also withdrawn from the case, with a new defense team expected to challenge the court's decision to deny him bail. The suspended sergeant previously testified before the Matlanga Commission, where he was accused by some witnesses of acting as a link between senior police officers and alleged crime figures. Mongezi Koko, Eyewitness News.
Please note the following story contains graphic details. A case of a 63-year-old woman accused of killing her 80-year-old sister is back in court today. Aleta Rose made a brief appearance in court earlier this week, but the matter was postponed for an administrative matter. Rose is set to hear whether an Afrikaans-speaking lawyer has been appointed to represent her. Camray Clark reports.
The 63-year-old murder accused will appear in court via video link from Paulsmoor Prison. Aleta Rose has been held in the facility since her arrest in March. She allegedly decapitated her 80-year-old sister, dismembered her hands and tried to hide the body from concerned relatives, including the victim's son. Menno Rose discovered his mother's body. He believes his aunt acted out of character.
I think it is not part of her personality, but because of the situation the accused is in, I'm quite surprised.
In an emotional plea in court on Tuesday, the accused asked to contact her son, but the state has revealed the woman's son has withdrawn his involvement in this matter. He will no longer visit her in custody or provide financial support. The court has instructed prosecutors to make arrangements for him to attend proceedings. Camray Clark, Eyewitness News.
And Pakistan's army chief is expected to visit Iran today, with Islamabad mediating as the Islamic Republic examines a new U.S. proposal to end the Middle East war. The reported visit by Field Marshal Asim Munir, a powerful figure with a growing role in Pakistan's foreign relations, comes a day after U.S. President Donald Trump warned negotiations to end the war were on the borderline between a deal and renewed strikes. A ceasefire in April halted the war launched weeks earlier by the US and Israel, but negotiation efforts have so far failed to yield a lasting peace agreement. A war of words has taken the place of open conflicts, but the impasse continues to weigh on the world economy, leaving everyone from investors to farmers in a painful state of uncertainty. Munir's visit is aimed at continuing talks and consultations with Iranian authorities. Gold is trading at $4,543.79 an ounce. The rand is at 16.47 to the dollar, 22.13 to the pound, 19.16 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $105.74 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got delays on the N12 and the R24 west towards the Kilulis interchange. There's also queuing traffic reported on the M1 south. This is due to an accident in Bramley. It happened right near Melrose Corlett Drive turn off. It's causing delays from Greyston Drive.
A cloudy day in store for Gauteng. The temperatures will peak at highs between 19 and 20 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. The death toll has risen to 10 following a crash in Mpumalanga.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
Joburg is more than just a city. It's an energy that connects us all.
That's what makes this one so special.
In 702, Josie My Josie Walk the Talk, hosted by the City of Johannesburg. Enter now on primemediaplus.com.
702.
Live
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
Welcome back. It's the third and final hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. It's 8 minutes past 11. Thank you so much for tuning in. Just had a fantastic conversation with a fantastic human being, Tebogo Khas, who's doing amazing work in the social and the civil space. I mean, he leads a number of organizations, and really a lot of his insights are so valuable. Thank you so much for the time that you've shared with us, Tebogo. And if you want to listen back to that conversation, you can go on the Prime Media Plus app or go on our YouTube, where you can listen back to what he's had to say. I am certain that he's going to continue making really dynamic moves in the spaces that he occupies. Also, look out for the pieces that he writes. I know that he writes quite a bit. In fact, someone here, Mr. Vincent, says one thing about Tebogo: he can write good English. Yes, he is a prolific writer, and he opines a lot about what's happening in our society. Very valuable insights from him. So, coming in the final hour of the show, it is the dialogue, and today we're going to be having a conversation around the bid, the Constitutional Court bid by presidents or former presidents Thabo Mbeki and Jacob Zuma. It's so interesting for me because, I mean, they seldom partner. In fact, we never see them partnering, but they've partnered in this, and it's the fight to have the chair of the TRC Commission or the TRC inquiry, Justice Sisi Khampepe, recuse herself. They have escalated this all the way to the Constitutional Court, and even after the Con Court had said that they hadn't gone through the steps that they should go through, they insisted and came back and said they will definitely be challenging in the Constitutional Court. So we'll have that conversation with Mbegazeli Benjamin from Judges Matter for a bit of analysis. We'll also be speaking about the SANDF. It's an ongoing conversation because, quite frankly, whenever we hear challenges in the army, whenever we hear that we've got problems in the SANDF, we know that, quite frankly, the problems run deep, and they're usually around budget. And that's exactly what we're talking about now. The problems around budget in the SANDF. Yesterday, we saw MPs, members of parliament, calling for more funding for the SANDF. But what does it mean when the SANDF feels, quote unquote, defunded? And why should we be concerned about that? We're going to be having that conversation in just a bit. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, both on the SANDF conversation and the Constitutional Court bid by our former presidents. And the number to dial is 011 883 0702 072 702 1702.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
So, we've been speaking about the SANDF. Yesterday, I don't know if you saw in Parliament, but we learned that South Africa's defense capability is under renewed scrutiny after MPs warned that chronic underfunding, governance failures, and aging infrastructure are pushing the South African National Defence Force closer to crisis point. Defence Minister Angie Motshekga delivered the budget vote debate in Parliament, that was yesterday, painting a rather bleak picture of a military struggling with outdated equipment, deteriorating naval infrastructure, inadequate air support capacity, procurement irregularities, and severe financial constraints. It doesn't look good. Motshekga also said that there is a dangerous mismatch between the SANDF's constitutional mandate and the resources allocated to it, describing it as a strategic national concern. Joining me for that conversation is Dean Wingren. I hope I got that right. And he is a defense analyst from Defense Web. Dean, good morning. Thank you so much for your time.
Good morning. Nice to be on.
When I heard this, Dean, yesterday in Parliament, and, I listened to a bit of what the minister had to say, I can't help but remember that this is not new. I remember in 2021, was it? We saw, the budget being cut a bit to the SANDF, and this is a persisting problem.
Indeed, it certainly is nothing new. In fact, it's been going on ever since the Defence Review of 2015, which warned exactly of this impending crisis. And speaking of crisis, you say that parliamentarians are saying that the Defence Force will soon be in crisis. Well, I think that moment has arrived, and the crisis in the Defence Force is upon us.
Mm. And why should South Africans be worried about a quote-unquote defunded SANDF?
Well, the Defence Force is not just there to fight a war somewhere else. People might say, our borders are safe, no one's going to attack us. But we still have issues along our borders. If you look at Cabo Delgado in northern Mozambique, where ISIS is still very active, we've got problems along our largest province, which is our oceans, the blue economy. Those are totally unprotected at the moment against poaching and other illegal activities, and bypassing customs and that kind of thing. So the Defence Force is mandated to protect South Africa's territorial integrity, as well as its citizens and the people who live within the country. So you look at what the Defence Force does in times of crisis, during floods, during mountain fires, assisting during voting. And at the moment, it's not really able to do much on that front.
Yeah. And Parliament is now hearing concerns about aging equipment and failing infrastructure. There's also issues around declining operational readiness. Can we now say that the SANDF is in a crisis of some sort, a capability crisis?
Definitely. When you look at our own personal lives, where we have a cell phone and after 3 years we say, we need a new one. The same with our laptops. And our cars, 10 years old car, it goes, but it's old. Now we look at our equipment. We talk about, the new strategic equipment that we purchased. And those are approaching 15, 20 years old already. And in the world of the military, the equipment and our vehicles, aircraft, ships, they operate in a very harsh environment, and they need constant upgrades and refits and to match the latest technology, because any potential opponents is certainly not sitting behind. Even if you look at Namibia, you look at Botswana, you look at Angola, they are all purchasing newer equipment than what South Africa has got. And in order to remain compatible, and even for interoperability reasons, for peacekeeping missions and so on, you need to have the equipment that protects our troops as well. And the older the equipment gets, you don't want to be relying on a 30, 40-year-old piece of armor that's going to break down at the moment of contact when it's not a situation you want to place your soldiers in.
Yeah. Can South Africans truly say and believe that the Defence Force can fulfill its constitutional mandate?
I believe it's struggling to do so. Thankfully, we're not facing a hot war at the moment. I think the government has recognized that the Defence Force's capabilities have reached such a level that it can no longer maintain concurrent external peacekeeping missions, as well as internal support operations for the police. So hence we saw earlier this year withdrawing from the DRC. And this is the first time, I think, since 1995 or 1996, that South Africa is not participating in a peacekeeping or peace enforcement mission. And the fact that the Defence Force has to rely on part-timers, the reserve force, for patrolling our borders and for assisting the police says a lot about the Defence Force.
Yeah, something that we've seen in the policing space, we've seen private security companies really coming in a lot in helping the SAPs, the police. Is this something, and I know that when it comes to the army, it's a whole, other ball game on a different level, but could we end up seeing something of that sort to support our army?
Yeah, it's a very different environment to the police, which is very much civilian in nature. It's internal, and whereas with the Defence Force, it's a very different environment in the sense that it's very much all or nothing. It's and that's a danger with the Defence Force coming into townships and assisting the police in gangsterism and so much, because they're not trained for that. They're trained for full force. And we've seen it even recently. We saw during COVID, where the Defence Force had issues with maintaining sort of restraint against civilians, and we've seen it once again now in the townships in the current Operation Prosper deployment, where there is reports of the Defence Force soldiers being heavily handed, and causing destruction and injury and so on. And so having a civilian private security force, besides the legalities of that, it's not won't be able to work to support the Defence Force.
And you've spoken about the deployments that we've recently seen, to the townships, to parts of the Western Cape, which many people have questioned, around the duty, really, the constitutional mandate of the army. But could we say that the army is now being stretched? Because in addition to the strain that they're experiencing with the lack of funding and already that being a problem, now having them deployed to civilian work, so to speak, sounds like they may be a little stretched.
That's right, and that's the one reason for them withdrawing from peacekeeping missions. We've received that originally, going back many years, the Defence Force was responsible for border safeguarding. That was then transferred to the police, and then the police sort of gave up on that, saying they weren't able to do such thing. And that mission was once again given back to the Defence Force, not with an increase in budget, mind you, that was kept by the police. But when you look at 15 companies of troops is currently deployed to protect our borders, the requirement is actually 23. And so you can see there's already an overstretch just to protect our borders. Now we're looking at the police, which has double the budget of the Defence Force. Yet the police is now looking to the Defence Force to supplement them in manpower. And the Defence Force is relying on reserve force members for that manpower. And Treasury is telling the Defence Force, you've got to cut down on your reserve force hours. And we're not going to allocate funding for your cost of employment. And that is why you find your cost of employment, over 65% of the budget goes to cost of employment. Whereas if you look in reality, it's probably closer to 70% because a lot of it is unfunded and has to be taken from operational budgets to fund that cost of employment. Hence, you've got reports of irregular expenditure by the AG. But all this points to how the Defence Force is being stretched. And, and that's, I'm just talking about the manpower. When you talk about, the heavily capital-intensive Air Force and the Navy that doesn't have funds for maintenance and refits, the issues just escalate and they just multiply year upon year.
And I suppose this also speaks to what the minister was saying about this mismatch between the mandate of the SANDF and the funding. The two just don't speak to each other.
Exactly. I mean, in 2015, which was, 11 years ago, we had our last defense review. And then they warned about underfunding will have serious issues and hit the capabilities of the Defence Force. And that was predicated, that defence review, on a 1.5% of GDP funding. That review was approved by Cabinet, it was approved by Parliament, and then promptly placed on the shelf, gathering dust, and everybody's ignored it. And despite pronouncements by the President in the last year or so that the Defence Force funding must be increased, absolutely nothing has happened. And I don't believe that South Africa's economy actually has the capability to fund a properly equipped Defence Force with its current mandate, as well as health and education and safety and so on. And I think the Defence Force, despite its journey to greatness that it's looking at, which still thinks it's going to be funded at a greater pace in the future, I think we need to have a step back to almost a 0 point and say, what is the threat analysis against South Africa? What are the issues? Against that, what do you want the Defence Force capabilities to be to match those threats and future capabilities that you want? And then you design the Defence Force around that with a budget that you can afford to give it. Because there's no use saying we want this and we want the gold standard, and therefore we need a budget of 1.5% to 2.5%. I mean, the journey to greatness talks about 4.5% in, as the target, which is, I think, not matching any reality. So we need to get back to basics and say, this is the reality. We're only going to be able to spend 0.7, 0.8, 1% of the budget, and we need to scrap capabilities, however terrible that sounds. But, you've got to say, do we need tanks? Do we need submarines? Do we need supersonic fighter jets? And if we say no, then at least we're not wasting funds on trying to keep a pretense of that capability. Otherwise, you say, if we need these capabilities, then we need funding for it, and it needs to be ring-fenced, and it needs to be, the presidency and the commander-in-chief of the Defence Force and National Treasury and the Cabinet needs to take the decision that we are going to fund the Defence Force, and not say, yes, we're going to fund it, and then in a year or two's time, start cutting again, like as he mentioned in 2021.
Yeah.
So that's right.
And is this something about, does this have to do with management as well? Because I know we're speaking about funding, which is one problem, but when you hear concerns and reports about soldiers buying their own uniforms, that for me speaks to a management issue as well.
Yeah, I mean, we only need to look at just about every other State Department, just about every SOE. They're all facing corruption, mismanagement, underfunding, irregular expenditure, and so on. And I think it would be naive of us to assume that the Defence Force is immune to that. So it might not be sort of on the scale of some of these other departments, but I think there definitely is a case to be made for mismanagement of funds and so on, because, and sort of maybe setting the wrong priorities. And I think it also comes from leadership as well, because as you mentioned, you've got soldiers having to buy their own boots, their own personal protection equipment, living in actually disgusting squalor in bases because the Defence Force and Department of Public Works can't afford upgrade and the upkeep of bases and buildings and so on. And then you look at the leadership and what vehicles are they driving? What's their travel allowances and expenditure and things like that? What are they spending money on, on that, maybe shouldn't be a priority at this point in time. And, So, yep.
I want to take a call from Anton in Pretoria, who actually wants to speak to and add an important layer to the conversation. Anton, good morning. You want to touch on the ratio of troops to generals?
Yeah, look, in some stuff that I was reading in the media recently, there was a statement that there are 450 generals in the SANDF, and the troop number is 70,000. That ratio is about 155 people per general. Now that seems to me to be a very top-heavy management structure. So a lot of money must be going towards the generals. Obviously, below generals, you have your other ranks going all the way down to captains, colonels, brigadiers. So the whole management structure is completely, in my view, overstated, and that will obviously the generals are paid significantly more than the troops. So that is one of their big financial problems, I assume, if those numbers are correct. I don't know if somebody can verify those numbers for us.
Yeah, thank you for that. Dean, I mean, he's speaking about a top-heavy leadership and a bloated management within the force.
Yes, thank Anton for bringing that up. And that is certainly a concern, and there have been many stories in the press and on social media and so on. A great many of them is, however, I think, overinflated, and the numbers aren't as bad as what much of what is going around social media states. Two comments, if I may, briefly. The one is that, yes, there are a lot of generals. They do draw sort of top-tier salaries on, from the state HR ban. But when you look at it in total, those salaries won't make much of a difference to the Defence Force's budget as a whole that they're drawing. The other thing is that the Defence Force has a structure that was drawn from the SADF when the various statutory and non-statutory forces were integrated, and the new South African National Defence Force was created in 1994. So that is quite a big professional structure that it has. But in those days, the Defence Force had a large, far higher number of troops than they have today. So that structure and the number of senior posts it served its purpose then. But as Treasury has instructed the Defence Force to reduce the number of the headcount, the structure remained, but the number of people have obviously reduced. So we still have to look, man and post people to each post. And as you get less and less people, it does kind of get a little bit unwieldy. Yeah. You're starting to get higher ranks going into certain posts where it might have been a lieutenant colonel post 20 years ago. It's now by a major general or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, but so that's part of the restructuring that I was mentioning earlier, by looking at the Defence Force and saying, what should its mandate be? Also look, is the structure of the Defence Force still fit for purpose for what it is now? Because it's good to have a large structure with posts and so on. And but if the structure doesn't fit its current needs and the current manpower, then some tough decisions will need to be made to reduce the top heavy leadership positions.
Dean Wingren, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for sharing those views and your insights with us. It's just a little over 11:30. And Bali Lamin is standing by. Good morning.
Thanks, Khomoto. A very good morning. The death toll following a crash in Mpumalanga has risen to 10. It's understood that a taxi and a bus collided on the R39 near Standerton this morning. 8 people were declared dead on that scene. Transport authorities say the taxi was transporting passengers towards Morgan Zone when the crash took place. The criminal cases of suspended Police Sergeant Fanny Nkosi have been combined. Nkosi appeared in the Pretoria North Magistrates Court this morning. The top cop faces charges including the possession of official police dockets as well as defeating the ends of justice in relation to two separate matters. The possible centralization of the cases will now be taking place on the 22nd of July. While in Taiwan, President Lai Ching-te has indicated his willingness to hold talks with U.S. President Donald Trump. It follows another comment from Trump in which he told reporters that he would be speaking to Lai. It was the second time since the summit in Beijing last week that Trump has said he would be calling the Taiwanese leader. Well, those are the headlines. This EWN and more at midday or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Traveling in Alexandra, rather on the M1 South, we've got an accident right near Colet Drive. It happened right before Colet. Coming out of Grayston, you can expect those delays, about a 15-minute hold up there. There's also queuing traffic on the M1 North as a result of the scene. If you are traveling in Diepkloof, we've got queuing traffic on the N1 South. This is towards the Golden Highway. That's due to roadworks along this route. There's also roadworks taking place on the N3 North approaching the Kiluli's interchange. Delays coming out of Van Buren Road, and traffic lights are still out of order in Kyalami at the R55 and Kenilworth. They're also out in Woodmead at Woodmead Drive and Woodlands Drive. Please approach with care. And that's your last traffic update from me, Amo Ramela. Karabajale will have your next report from the top of the hour onwards. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. 702 Afternoons with Relebogile Mabodja.
702 Afternoons is about all things in life, from music to inspiration. We get an opportunity to explore science, mental health, food. I almost feel like there's nothing we don't do on my show. One of the things I absolutely love about 702 Land and the 702 family is that we are so sharing. We share tears, laughs, smiles. We share in the amazing times and celebrate together as well. We have a range of topics, but when it comes to what we do cover on the show, absolutely everything. My listener is somebody who wants to grow, evolve, develop. They're empathetic, they are loving. They are so special that even when they don't have, they come through and share, and more importantly, they know how to walk the talk.
702 Afternoons with Relebogile Mabodja. Weekdays from 1 to 3 p.m.
We could tell you we are the best bank in Africa, but if you're a CEO or CFO looking to grow, you're probably more interested in the numbers. Like the fact that our systems process $9 trillion every year. That's around 45 times the value of all intra-Africa trade. And that our custody network safeguards 17.7 trillion rand in assets. Those are big numbers. And a big reason to grow with us. Standard Bank Corporate and Investment Banking. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Catch the Springboks live at Ellis Park this year. Lions fans, it's time to roar. Get ready for a season of pure adrenaline in the heart of Jozi. Secure your all-inclusive Lions membership starting from just 950 Rand. That's right, less than $1,000, and locks your seat to every Lions home match at Emirates Airline Park. That includes the one you've been waiting for, the massive clash between the Lions and the All Blacks this August. Don't get left at the gate for the biggest game of the year. Memberships are available right now at Ticket Pro. Own the season, back the pride, and get behind your team, the Lions.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We are also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct. To give you balanced programming, fair comments, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we are not living up to the code, let us know on comment at 702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission. Email bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more, visit bccsa.co.za.
My name is Richard Sutton, and I'm the host of the podcast Shift Happens. This podcast is about you, about transformation, elevation, and becoming the best version of yourself. Each episode shares powerful, hard-won lessons from prominent South Africans who have faced doubt, change and early failure, and emerge transformed. Don't miss Shift Happens, the tools, insight, and skills to help you navigate the real realities of life. Now streaming on primemediaplus.com, the Prime Media Plus app, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
It's 27 minutes to 12. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is the Clement Manyathela Show. My name is Clement Manyathela, and I'm in for Clem this morning. So, to this conversation now, it's an important case that's about to play out in the Constitutional Court. Former Presidents Thabo Mbeki and Jacob Zuma are headed to the Apex Court, challenging retired Constitutional Court Justice Sisi Khampepe, who chairs the TRC inquiry. So, if you haven't been following the inquiry, it's an inquiry into the reasons why there haven't been prosecutions of apartheid-era crimes, particularly those that were sent for prosecution from the TRC to the NPA. Mbeki and Zuma argue that her previous involvement in the TRC and the National Prosecuting Authority creates a reasonable apprehension of bias and that she should recuse herself. But the Gauteng High Court dismissed her application, ruling that they failed to obtain permission from Chief Justice Mandisa Maya before instituting proceedings against a judge as required by law. For that conversation, we've got Mbigazeli Benjamin from Judges Matter. Thank you so much for your time, Mbigazeli.
Hi, Khumuto, and thank you very much for having me. Good afternoon. Oh, good morning to the
Yes. So I want to start with this permission that is required by law for the former president to have this matter in court, because not only was this the decision or the judgment made by the High Court, but I'm also aware that when they tried to escalate the matter to the Constitutional Court initially, they did say, or a response was given, that they had failed to get permission from the Chief Justice to do this. How does this work? What's this permission that the former presidents need for this matter?
Yes. So the permission that is required in order to sue a judge is in terms of Section 47 of the Superior Courts Act. And what Section 47 says is that before you initiate any court proceedings, whether they are civil summons or it is a notice of motion, you first need to get the permission of the head of court in which that judge is based. So if you want to initiate civil proceedings against a judge of the High Court, you need to get permission from the Judge President. For the Supreme Court of Appeal, you need the President of the Supreme Court of Appeal. And for Constitutional Court judges, you need permission from the Chief Justice in order to initiate proceedings against that particular judge. And what the courts have said in different cases is that it includes both sitting judges and also retired judges. The case law also says that it includes judges who are performing functions in court, but also who are performing functions like in a commission of inquiry. And the purpose of this section, of Section 47, is essentially to protect the judicial process or the court functions. Because what would happen is that people would obviously file court cases, and because you are unhappy with the outcome of the court judgment, you then want to sue the judge personally. And so, in a way, in order to insulate the judges or immunize the judges from just being sued willy-nilly, there is this Section 47 process, which is a gatekeeping process. So that means that for you, before you file your court papers, you need to write to the head of court and get that permission. And in your letter to the head of court, you explain what the case is about, what the facts in which it arises, what exactly are you claiming from the court, how is the judge implicated, and where does the judge really relate in all of this litigation. And you have to essentially show what they call good cause for you to get that permission. So if it's a case that is completely unmeritorious, or there are no real legitimate reasons for you to bring the case against the judge, then the permission will be refused. And if the permission is refused, that is essentially the end of your matter. But if there is merit, there is good cause in that case, then the permission will be granted, and then you can proceed with the case.
So in this instance, because Justice Sisi Khampepe was a constitutional court judge, then this permission would have to be granted by the Chief Justice, right? And what exactly would the Chief Justice consider?
So, the permission would have to be granted by the Chief Justice because Justice Khampepe was a member of the Constitutional Court. And what the Chief Justice considers is a number of things. For example, what is the basis of why you're going to court? What are you claiming from the court, and exactly how does the judge involved? So, if, for example, there have actually been previous cases, Engelbrecht versus Kumalo, for example. In that case, the judge had previously been involved in a business transaction while I think she was a lawyer. And then one of the people in that business transaction wanted to claim something from the judge. So it was, I think, a debt or something or contractual dispute that arose from a prior business relationship. And so they then wanted to initiate court proceedings or civil litigation against the judge, and then they had to get permission from the judge president of that court. And the judge president did grant the permission because when they looked at the circumstances, they said, look, here the judge was intimately involved in this business relationship. Yes, it arose from prior to her being a judge, but still it is relevant in these circumstances. Now, when it comes to reviewing a report or a proceedings in a commission, there the court have also said you need permission because you are citing the judge as a party. So in the Khampepe case, they did cite Justice Khampepe as a party, and so they were required to get that permission. Similarly, and in fact, a lot of the cases that involve Section 47 have arisen from the Zondo Commission. So there was a case involving a senior staff member from South African Airways. In that case, she was instituting a review of the Zondo Commission report, and there the court, even though it didn't say that she needed to get permission necessarily, but they say that it would have been an issue that would have been arisen. But the more on the point case is the one involving Minister Mantashe, who also wanted to review the Zondo Commission report. And the High Court in Joburg said he did need to get that permission, and he needed to show exactly why he needed that permission. He was reviewing the report, and the report involved Justice Zondo as the chairperson, and so he did need to get permission. So essentially, you need to show what is the connection between what you're claiming and how the judge is involved, and that is the good cause that is referred to in the judgments.
Well, speaking about the Constitutional Court bid by former Presidents Jacob Zuma and Thabo Mbeki, they are tag teaming to go to the Apex Court to challenge the role of Justice Sisi Khampepe as the chair of the TRC Commission. I want to hear from you. What do you make of the former President's bid and the fact that they are willing to go and escalate the matter all the way to the Constitutional Court? I think is very telling. I'm taking your calls on that, and the number to dial is 011-883-0702. Send me a WhatsApp on 072-702-1702 or get in touch with me on X. My handle is at @Mozo_Mudi, so we continue with the conversation after this.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes on 702.
My show is about your money, and it's about how people have made their money. But it's also about what happened to your money today, what happened on the JSE, what's happening overseas. All of these things, all about the way in which people make their money, spend their money, use their money, and in so many ways, use their money to make more money for them. What I absolutely love about the 702 family and 702 land is the huge warmth of people, the generosity that they show. But I also absolutely love the hustle. Anyone in business is actually trying to improve the economy. They're trying to have an impact on all of us. And there's a go-getting attitude to 702 land that you don't see in so many other places. That's what I really love about 702 land. That getting together and doing something new, and in the process, making money.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes. Weekdays from 6 to 8 p.m.
702 Josie My Josie Walk the Talk is calling on you to walk with the people for the people on Sunday the 26th of July. Babiza Bonke. And this year you can choose from 3 different inner city routes. The 8-kilometer 44 Main Street route takes you from Ellis Park through Maboneng and Jewel City past the Field of Dreams and Maharishi Invincibility Institute. You then go through the Main Street precinct at the Gandhi Square and past the Carlton Centre, finishing off at Ellis Park. So whether you're taking on the 8-kilometer, the 5-kilometer or the 15-kilometer, enter now on primemediaplus.com and get ready for the 702 Josie My Josie Walk the Talk, hosted by the City of Johannesburg.
Imagine if you could save time like you save money. A second here, a minute there. Type a little faster, walk a little faster. Or you could stop scrolling on the internet. Just think of all the hours you'll save. Now, what if you could take all that time and invest it? Watch it grow. Until eventually, one day, you'd have so much time that you wouldn't know what to do with it all. But unfortunately, time doesn't work like that. It can't be stored or banked. And unlike money, you can't make it back. That's why after 50 years of investing, we've learned that time is the greatest gift of all. And the good news is, if you invest early, time gives you money. And then money gives you more time to do whatever you want to do, even if it is scrolling on the internet. Ellen Gray, long-term investing. Ellen Gray is an authorized FSP.
It's time to get revved up. The Motor Select Rev Up sale is on, and we've got thousands of quality pre-owned vehicles at unbeatable prices. That's everything from city cars to 4x4s. Offer ends 30 June, so get to motorselect.co.za now.
In a world that is continuously evolving, Africa is adapting, innovating, and finding new pathways for growth. R&B Africa Focus is back for its 5th season to unpack the conversations shaping the continent right now. Every week on 702, award-winning journalist Crystal Alderson takes a closer look at influential economies and emerging opportunities across Africa, with insights from R&B experts and regional voices. Catch R&B Africa Focus Tuesday on 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Make sure you watch the in-depth video series with episodes released weekly on Prime Media Plus. R&B, a leading African corporate and investment bank.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
Welcome back. This is the Clement Manyathela Show. My name is Komoto Mudise, and of course we are speaking for our dialogue. We're having a conversation on the Constitutional Court bid by former Presidents Thabo Mbeki and Jacob Zuma. We're speaking to Mbigazeli Benjamin, who's a researcher at Judges Matter. Let's take one of your voice notes.
Afternoon. I think it's very telling. That is why they would go to such a length of taking Justice Rampepe to the Constitutional Court. It means they know that she was there. She knows the secrets, because today South Africans, majority of South Africans and the country is stagnant, is unable to go forward because of the deals and the agreements that were made in secrecy, without South Africans knowing. We are where we are today because of such decisions or such secrets, deals and decisions, And when you look at who actually is progressing in this country, easily so, it's the politicians, not the ordinary South Africans. Ordinary South Africans are struggling, but the politicians, continue to prosper. So it shows that a lot of harm was done to South Africans. Hence, today, South Africans are expected and forced to survive with the 350. They must not even, are not even given a platform, the conducive platform, to thrive.
Thank you so much for that voice note. Yeah, having read their court papers myself and having listened to some of the arguments that they made in the High Court, I know a big part of the argument that they make is the fact that Justice Rampepe had been part of the TRC process as well as and she'd been working for the NPA at some point, and they insist that she would be marking her own homework because she's going to be critiquing a process that she was actively part of. And the term that they use is reasonable apprehension of bias. Maybe you can help us break down what that means, because I was trying to understand, how does this differ from just saying she is biased, but they say there's reasonable apprehension of bias?
Yes. So in law, especially when you want a judge or presiding officer to recuse themselves from a case, you have to allege two things. You either have to allege actual bias, so there is a clear conflict of interest in that you know that this person was previously involved in your case, and in that same case, they are now presiding over, and they had taken a different view in that same case. So there is a conflict of interest, or sometimes there is a conflict of interest between like personal versus official interests of that presiding officer. So let's say one of the litigating parties is the wife or the husband of the judge. Then there's a clear conflict of interest which gives rise to actual bias. And then there's a second category that is called a reasonable apprehension of bias. And here, it essentially says that you don't necessarily have actual information that shows bias against the bias on the part of the presiding officer, but there is substantive information that will give the reasonable person a fear that the judge or the presiding officer will not bring an open mind. It gives you the impression that the judge has already taken a decision. And the legal test is that a reasonable person, looking at the reasonable information in front of them, will then come to a reasonable conclusion that the judicial officer is biased. And so it's called the reasonable apprehension of fear. So a reasonable apprehension of bias. So that means based on your reasonable assessment. So someone who's reasonable, who's not too dramatic or too hyperbolic, looking at the information before them, they will come to a conclusion that the presiding officer is not open-minded or will be biased on one side or the other. In specific relation to this case, they say that because Justice Rampepe was involved in the TRC previously and also at the NPA in the early 2000s, then it gives rise to a reasonable apprehension that she will not keep an open mind to the inquiry. She will already take a view on the involvement of the two former presidents. So that's why they're taking this to court. And something important to add here, Homuto, is that the court in the High Court didn't deal with those substantive questions. They simply dealt with, they said, you didn't get the permission that you need to get, and so we are dismissing the case. And so that is why they are going to the Constitutional Court. They are asking the Constitutional Court to say, look, the court shouldn't have dismissed this case at that early stage. They should have allowed the merits to be dealt with the question of whether Justice Rampepe is actually biased, or her conduct gives rise to a reasonable apprehension of bias.
Mbegazeli Benjamin, he's a researcher at Judges Matter. Thank you so much for your time. Yeah, we're going to be watching that closely. The date for that hearing has been issued. I believe it's next month. It's been scheduled to be heard next month. And it does seem to me like it's been expedited. Actually, I didn't think that it would be heard so soon. And of course, now they need to fledge out and almost, dissect all of those issues. And the fact that, Justice Khampepe was part of the TRC process, I think will be explored quite a bit. Of course, the counter argument, if I remember properly, that was made was that she may have been part of the adjudications process and not necessarily the entire process. And in terms of the NPA, she hadn't necessarily been working on TRC cases, because you may remember that it was delegated to a unit within the NPA to work on. And the argument that was made was that she may not have necessarily been actively part of that process. So why then should she be barred from doing this? But what I find to be even more interesting, you may remember that President Cyril Ramaphosa himself then said that he asked Justice Kampepe through the Justice Minister, Mamoloko Kubai, that she should recuse herself. So, when this matter went to the High Court, President Cyril Ramaphosa himself wasn't opposing. He said that he would abide by what the court finds. And he says that at the time that he appointed her, he wasn't aware of how intimately, I should say, active and part of the TRC process she was. So it's interesting because the president isn't going to be objecting. I don't think in the Constitutional Court, I don't think he's going to be challenging the recusal of Justice Khampepe there as well. Of course, we'll be keeping a very close eye on that next month. Someone says, believe me, Khomotso, when I tell you that if and when the secrets of what was decided upon behind closed doors during the TRC, the explosive nature of compromise will make the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry look like a walk in the park. We haven't seen or heard anything yet.
Totally advantage nge-FNB Speed Point. Kanjani? You can boost your cash flow with FNB Cash Advance and get pre-approved funds within 24 hours.
So whether you're buying stock, paying suppliers, or growing your business, it's easy. Get your cash. Walala wasala.
Get in the payments game with a bank that helps you unlock cash flow with FNB Speed Point. FNB, help changes everything. First National Bank, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized financial services and credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Chamberlain is famous for our annual carnival and hardware since 1903.
In this year's carnival from 21 May to 31 May, we will be offering the biggest discounts in 20 years.
Less 30% on paint mixing plus a free cappuccino while we mix.
Serious discounts on all top-line power tool brands, some below cost.
Our knowledgeable and expert staff will offer you friendly advice. Chamberlain, famous for our carnival and hardware since 1903.
You wouldn't pay for a large cappuccino and walk away with a tiny cup. So why pay for car insurance that gives you less? Rather switch to Outsurance, like 40-year-old Rafiq, who saves 899 Rand a month on his 2017 Nissan Navara 4x4.
899, that's not small change, it's more than 50% that I saved from my previous insurer.
How much could Outsurance save you? SMS cover to 30995. That's cover to 30995. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Every week, millions of South Africans do the same thing. They pick numbers, they take a chance, and for a moment, they dream big. Now the National Lottery is entering a new chapter. On Tuesday, 26 May, Clement Manyathela will be in conversation with Sizakaya Holdings, the new operator of the National Lottery. Listen to find out what changes and what you can expect from this new era of the National Lottery. The Clement Manyathela Show, in conversation with Sizakaya Holdings. Next Tuesday on 702. Sizakaya is licensed and regulated. No persons under the age of 18 permitted to play. Play responsibly.
Coming up
on the Midday Report
with Mandy Wiener.
Coming up is the Midday Report, and Mandy Wiener is in studio. Mandy, what's on your show today?
So some breaking news for you, Khomotso. Fly Safair has been referred to the Consumer Tribunal over allegations of overbooking flights. So we'll take a look at that. Police and Home Affairs meeting with foreign nationals at the Diaconia Centre in Durban. We'll speak to the Joburg Mayor, Dada Morero, about the state of the city, what he says the state of the city is. And then it's a Thursday, so our book of the week is about illegal mining called Zama Zama.
All right, then that's the Midday Report today with Mandy Wiener. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your contributions. I always appreciate your voice notes, your WhatsApps, and your calls. We do it again tomorrow. For now, it's 12 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon, I'm Bali Dlamini. The death toll following a crash in Mpumalanga this morning has now risen to 10. It's understood that a taxi and a bus collided on the R93 near Standerton this morning. 8 people were declared dead on the scene. Transport authorities say the taxi was transporting passengers towards Morgan Zone when the crash took place. Mpumalanga Transport Department spokesperson Moeti Musi says an investigation into the cause of the crash push is now underway.
It is not clear as to what led to the collision. However, reckless and